Welcome back, guys. We are back with another audiobook on What If Carlisle Kissed Bella Instead of Edward. Before that, we are very close to reach milestone of 9,000 subscribers, and more than 50% of our viewers haven't subscribed our channel yet, so do for more such stories. Tonight was an absolute disaster. How could one little paper cut MP legally derail my 18th birthday party so horrifically? Edward was in an absolute rage, which didn't much surprise anyone. I felt truly sorry for Jasper. I knew how hard he tried to maintain his control around me. It wasn't his fault that tonight happened. Carlisle was my only source of relief tonight, but as always, I couldn't let myself rejoice in it. I couldn't let myself feel the way his fingers were gliding over my skin as he stitched me up. I even tried my hardest not to breathe so I wouldn't be consumed by his fresh linen and worn leather scent. Being this close to him was dangerous. There was something in the way his hands felt on me, how our bodies always seemed to react to one another. It made me so nervous that I'd recently started avoiding being in the same room with him for too long. If I let myself be physically near him, or even let my eyes linger for longer than a second, then I would feel that pull to him. It was almost magnetic. I wanted him so badly, but it could never happen. It would never happen. The soft plink 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 of the glass fragments falling to the bowl under my arm pulled me out of my reverie. Even as his grip on my arm tightened and I fought the urge to take a deep breath. I had to stop thinking about him. I was already sure the dreams would start again tonight. I shook my head as if the motion would banish him from my mind. Did that hurt? He paused his work to look at me, eyes full of genuine concern. Quickly, I blinked and looked away. I knew the inner turmoil that awaited me if I let myself take in the full force of his bright gold eyes. No, I was just thinking about tonight. It's been a disaster. Oh, I don't know, he let out a soft laugh. The sound of it was hesitant. Maybe even nervous. It washed over me like a fresh sea breeze. I'm not happy you're injured, but I must admit I am quite pleased to have you in my study regardless of the circumstances. It's not every day I get to spend a moment alone with you. My heart felt like it was about to pound out of my chest. It was almost like I was in one of my dreams. Was he hinting that no, he couldn't be. It's just me reading way too much into it. Carlisle. His name was like fire on my tongue. I took a breath to steady myself and instantly regretted it as I inhaled his intoxicating scent. I don't know what you mean. It's possible I'm wrong, but I think you do. He gently slid his hands down my arm, letting them linger on my fingertips. Will you look at me, Bella? Please. I didn't move. This couldn't be happening. There's no way. I must have hit my head when Edward pushed me away from Jasper. I was probably still lying unconscious on the living room floor. This could only be a dream. Isabella, my name sounded like a caress on his lips. Please. I never get to see your eyes anymore. He nudged my chin up and let his hand rest against my cheek. At last giving in to the temptation, I slowly shifted my gaze up until I was met with his stunningly golden eyes. They were so bright, so pure in color, that I almost felt blinded by them. He gave me a tentative smile, and that was when I finally saw it. I saw the exact same hidden desire that I always tried to suppress. The same longing, the same hunger. Very, very slowly, almost tortuously, he began to lean in. My breath hitched. Was this actually happening? I fought the urge to pinch myself. That feeling, the magnetic pull I always felt towards him, was infinitely amplified as his hand traced a path down to the back of my neck. He was close enough now that I could feel his breath on my lips. Carlisle, but I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to express the whirlwind of thoughts and emotions that was threatening to overwhelm me. Don't fight it, Bella, he whispered as he closed the gap between us. In that one moment, I was gone. That's all it took. The feeling I'd always had whenever I was near him or thought about him, the way just a glance from him made my heart race. And even the incessant dreams I'd had ever since I first met him at the hospital, it all made sense. Everything had been leading us to this. To each other. In that one kiss, the old Bella was lost. Burned down completely as I let go of who I was before this. That one kiss sealed my fate forever. It was like we had this harmonic connection that would infinitely link us together. I let my hands trace up his back, feeling the taut muscles that were ice cold beneath his shirt, then continued up to tangle my fingers into his golden blonde hair. He had one hand gripping my neck, keeping my lips locked to his. The other hand was wound tightly around my waist. Instinctively, I wrapped my legs around him and moaned as he pulled me closer. I don't know if it lasted minutes or mere seconds. But we were completely melted into each other, body and soul. I felt a yearning for him that I never would have imagined possible if I weren't feeling it right now. I wanted more. So much more. All too abruptly, he was gone. I blinked and found him a foot away from me. He'd produced bandages out of nowhere and was gingerly wrapping them around my arm. "Wah?" I started to ask. "Edward," he mouthed. Just as Edward was walking through the doors to the study. Seeing his face, I was pulled out of my passionate haze and into the world of reason. Edward. What about Edward? What was I doing? Even though I'd yearned for Carlisle ever since I first laid eyes on him, even though I knew from that kiss that I would never be satisfied without him, I still loved Edward. Didn't I? Maybe. In a way. But never once have I felt this irresistible pull, this need, for him. He didn't set my body on fire. I never even dreamed about him anymore. "Ready to go, Bella." His tone was emotionless and he didn't meet my eye. My body tensed and I felt my throat closing. I couldn't even get a response out. Had he read in Carlisle's mind what happened? Oh God, what about Esme? Did she hear us? She was probably disgusted with me. I couldn't blame her. Carlisle responded for me, while running his thumb across my wrist in a comforting motion. "I think it would be best if I brought her home. There is still a lot of blood." He winked at me discreetly. "Fine. I'll see you tomorrow, Bella." Edward almost hissed. He didn't so much as look at me as he made his way out of the room. Carlisle let out another soft laugh at the underlying stress on my face and softly kissed my forehead. "Don't worry about him right now," his voice was barely audible, "we'll figure all this out in time." We walked through the house in silence. The mess that was made by the incident had been cleaned up and my gifts were neatly stacked in a small pile by the garage door. Where did everyone go? Had they all heard our short tryst and run out in horror? Emmett and Alice took Jasper for a hunt. "Rosalie and Esme are somewhere upstairs," Carlisle answered my unspoken question as he carried the gifts to his car. We were still, quiet while driving away from the house, down the long driveway that wound through the trees. I could feel the tension in my body building from being in such an enclosed space with him, but I was too stressed to give in to it. I had too many questions. How long had he felt it? The undeniable hunger between us. Was it from that first glance? If so, why didn't he ever say anything before tonight? Hen, there was Edward and Esme. How could either of us do this to Esme? I was going to be sick. Carlisle took hold of my hand and began rubbing soothing circles on my palm. My body instantly relaxed. How did he have this strong of an effect on me? The feeling of his cool skin was also enough to satiate the thirst I had for him, though I could still feel the hunger growing. "Please don't make yourself crazy with stress, Bella." Hearing my name on his lips almost sent every worry from my mind. "I promise we will talk this whole thing out. We'll work through it together." I only nodded in response, fearing that if I opened my mouth, any words would come out in a jumble. Underneath all the worry, the hunger was still growing steadily stronger. Maybe I didn't speak because I knew there was a chance I would blurt out the feelings I'd worked so hard to hide. I could see Charlie watching a game through the front window when we reached my house. Carlisle parked his car in a dark area across the street. He still hadn't let go of my hand. "Should we go for a walk?" I nodded and we got out of the car. He took my hand again as we walked to the side of my house, leading me down the path into the woods. Once the house was out of sight, he stopped me mid-step to grab my other hand, and turned so we were facing each other. My eyes adjusted while I took in his expression. Here in the secluded forest, he looked almost as stressed as I was. My heart pounded as for the first time in months I allowed myself to really look at him. I was always on guard around him, never letting my gaze linger for too long. He was undeniably handsome, that was a given. His blonde curls complemented his golden eyes perfectly. He was the most perfectly gorgeous creature I had ever laid eyes on. The strong features of his face haunted my dreams. I pulled his hand up to my face and leaned in to feel his skin against my cheek. Yes, he was cold as all vampires were, but the temperature was an easy price to pay for the overwhelming feeling of contentment his touch brought. I'd spent months wishing that I could even have this much of him. It was all still too dreamlike. "Carlisle," I managed to whisper, "What happened tonight?" He took hold of both my hands and pulled them onto the sides of his own face. He closed his eyes and we stood like that for what felt like hours. Content with simply existing together, though with too much uncertainty for us to get closer. With a long sigh, he let my hands go and looked at me with a palpable longing. "Do you think it was a mistake?" Pain flashed in his eyes. "No," I almost yelled, then steadied myself. "Of course not. I don't know what this is, but it feels. It feels right." I nodded. He pulled me against his chest in a tight embrace. I shivered at the feeling of his breath cascading down my neck. Everything about him was intoxicating. All I wanted was to lose myself in him. Not yet. Not until I knew for sure what was happening on his end. I needed to get at least some of my questions answered before I gave in to the hunger. Pushing slightly away from him, I decided to ask the most pressing question first. "What about Edward and Esme?" I was barely able to say their names without being crushed by a mountain of guilt. Carlisle's eyes narrowed. "Did Edward never tell you the truth about Esme and me?" I shook my head. "Well, she is not actually my wife. That's just what we present to the human world. She's been my best friend and confidant for many years, but she has never, ever been a lover. I suppose I'm not surprised Edward let you think otherwise. You don't need to worry about her, though. She's been nothing but supportive ever since I first told her about you." My heart skipped a beat. "What? You mean before tonight?" He pulled my hands back up to his face and gently kissed each of my knuckles. "Yes, I had to tell someone. From the very moment we made eye contact I knew there was something between us. Do you remember? We were at the hospital after the accident and I swear when we looked at each other there was an attraction. But more so, ever since then, there has been this thing between us. This magnetic pull." It was my turn to finish his thought. "I felt it, too. I still do. I've spent every day since then trying to ignore it. I thought I was crazy because if you felt it too that you would have, I don't know that you would have said something about it. Done something about it." I looked up into his eyes and was lost in a sea of passion. What could I have said? He spoke softly as he brought his lips towards mine. "You were already enamored with Edward. Or, at least, he was with you. From everything he told us, you were both completely in love." The tiniest bit of malice slipped out when he spoke Edward's name. That hadn't even begun yet. Besides, whatever I felt towards him even at our strongest point is entirely inconsequential compared to how I felt for you. How I do feel for you. This time, I was the one who closed the gap between us. Our first kiss had demolished any pretense that we did not want each other. It had burned down everything I thought I knew about him. Even about myself. This miraculous second kiss did something else. This kiss ignited the spark from the ashes of the old me. The part of me that always knew, but could not dare to dream that he felt the same way. This kiss sent a wildfire of all-consuming devotion burning through my very soul. After much too short of a moment, he pulled away so I could breathe, and began kissing my neck. Carlisle, it was such a relief to freely say his name. There was still more to say, but I wanted so badly to just let him kiss me. To let him continue kissing a trail down my neck, my chest, my body. "No, not yet. Not until it's right. Carlisle, not yet." He pulled his lips off of me at once. "You're worried about Edward." "Yes. Do you love him?" His tone was steady, but his eyes held a hint of fear. I think in some way, but not like that." I struggled to put my feelings about Edward into words. Did I love him? Yes. I loved what Edward had done for me. I loved the world, and family he had introduced me to. I usually enjoyed his company. But was I in love with him? No, I wasn't. I don't know if I ever was. I hated the way he treated me like an object. TA's special prize that he could keep on a shelf. Even at the best of times with Edward, I never once felt anything like this. I never once felt the passionate desire that I felt for Carlisle. It was more than desire. I could feel my soul longing, even yearning, for him. "I have love for Edward in a familial sense," I finally said, "but I am not at all in love with him." That seemed to be enough for Carlisle. I was hit with a barrage of passionate kisses, his hands suddenly seemed to be everywhere all at once, and before I knew it he backed me against a tree. It took every ounce of my resolve not to give in to him as my body was begging to do. No, I managed to get out. I pushed on his chest and he graciously backed up, though I knew that if he wanted to, he could devour me right here and I wouldn't be able to do a thing about it. I am not in love with Edward, but this still isn't right. He ran a hand through his gold curls and sighed, I know. I'm sorry for being so forward. I'm usually much more contained. But I have wanted you for so long, Bella. And finally finding out that you want me, too, it's too much. I cannot endure another moment without you. Isabella, you're so beautiful. Right down to your soul. Can you not feel that? The force of our souls meld. I crushed my lips into his. Yes, I whispered in between kisses, I feel it, too. And then it happened. I lost myself in him and he lost himself in me. Our bodies were already intertwined, but it was in this moment that our souls converged. Nothing else mattered. Nobody else mattered. It was just me and him lost in each other. I knew that from now on, no matter what happened, I would always be by his side. Carlisle, I moaned. I don't know how long we stayed there. Pressed against a tree in the dark, hungrily consuming each other. I wanted more, needed more of him. If not for the lingering guilt, I would have given myself to him fully right then and there. When we eventually pulled away from our tangled embrace, I felt confident in what we needed to do. We need to talk to him. Tonight. Of course, but he was already kissing my neck again. I don't know how he'll take it. Couldn't he read your mind? Not just earlier tonight, but any time you thought about me. I did not want Edward to find out about us that way, but the cowardly part of me wished it was that easy. Carlisle laughed and shook his head. After almost a century with him, I have learned how to keep my secrets. Though I believe he does suspect something, I never had a reason to block him out of my head until I saw you. He moved in for one more deep kiss. Then slowly pulled himself off of me. Let's get this over with. I do not want to waste another second pretending that I'm not wholly infatuated with you. We took our time walking back toward my house. He kept a guiding hand on me as we navigated the overgrown trail. As we emerged from the woods, I finally felt as though this was real. I'd never been happier. I'll meet you in your room and then we'll go, he whispered, kissing me on the cheek before disappearing into the night. Heart pounding, I took a deep breath to steady myself before walking through the front door. It seemed strange, after the last few hours, to walk into my father's ordinary house where nothing had changed at all. It was almost surreal. I'd expected it to feel as different as I was. My entire world had shifted tonight and there was no going back. Bella, you're home. Charlie called from the living room. What happened to your arm? I glanced down at my bandages. That part of the night felt like it was a lifetime ago. I fell on a vase. I shrugged. Charlie laughed. Guess it's a good thing drive. Cullen was there. I felt my cheeks blush and my shoulders tensed. You're okay though, right? You look a little flushed. Quote, yeah, Dad, I'm fine. Just tired. I lied. At once I was struck with how impossible this situation with Carlisle was. Sure, Charlie liked Carlisle as my boyfriend's dad respected him. But I was sure that would change drastically if he knew what was truly between us. I'd probably have to lie to him for his entire life. I'm gonna go to bed. Charlie nodded and back to the television. Good night, Bells, happy birthday. I groaned, in spite of the fact that the dread I felt at aging this morning had dissipated somewhat. I had at least a few years before I reached Carlisle's physical age. What was his physical age? I'd never felt comfortable asking Edward. It was strange how easily I looked at my relationship with Edward as the past. The entire time I'd been with him, I was constantly stressed about our future and my place in his life. Whether he wanted me physically, if he would turn me, it was a constant struggle. With Carlisle, I knew it would not be his life, but ours. I knew without question that he would turn me. How could he not? The intensity of our bond was too substantial for one lifetime to ever be enough. I loved how I just knew with Carlisle. Our binding affection left almost no room for even a sliver of doubt. Once my bedroom door was securely closed, I dashed to open my window and threw it wide open. It hadn't even been 5 minutes. But my heart was racing at the thought of seeing him. Of feeling his hand in mine. Of his cool lips. Carlisle. I whispered into the darkness. I turned away from the window and felt a rush of wind. Carlisle picked me up without saying a word. Before I could react, everything blurred around us. When it came back into focus, we were down the street. I gasped and coughed, trying to catch my breath. Are you okay? He set me down next to his car. I should have warned you before I took off like that. It sounds like you're having a panic attack. No, I'm fine. I just didn't expect that. Once I was finally able to breathe normally, I smiled up at him. That was exhilarating. Why would you ever drive when you can do that? Surprise shone in his eyes. You've never done that before. Edward never showed you how we can move. No, well, almost. I shook my head at the memory. I saw him do it, but when I asked him to really show me, he said it was too dangerous. Carlisle laughed. You're not made out of glass. Bella. As if to prove his point, he spun me around and pinned me against the car with a surprising force. Even if you were, he brought his lips just centimeters away from mine. I could always fix you. The intensity with which he kissed me was staggering. His hands caressed my sides and I locked my arms around his neck to keep him close. I could lose myself in him for an eternity. I intended to. We had forever. Forever to ravage each other. His kisses steadily became more vigorous. My legs wrapped around his waist as he lifted me slightly and softly ground his hips against mine. His eyes were flush with desire as I let out a sharp moan, but there was an urgency, maybe even a hint of dread in them that I did not understand. Wah! I attempted to ask him what was wrong. But he cut me off with a deep, passion-fueled kiss. When he eventually let up, I tried again. What's wrong? He sighed and looked up towards the sky. I slid my fingers up to NGLE in the back of his hair and nudged his head down. At long last, he met my eyes, and I was struck with sadness that filled them. His beautifully bright gold eyes were so full of pain that my heart broke just looking at him. Carlisle. He looked away again in shame. It feels ridiculous after everything you've said, but I'm afraid. You. He put his palms on either side of my face and kissed my forehead with a palpable longing. It's been centuries since I was last able to dream, yet somehow I'm afraid that this is not real. I've waited so long for you, Isabella. I'm also terrified. That you are caught up in the sensations and excitement, and that tomorrow you will awake to feel differently. Or perhaps remorseful. That this was too rash and that you are in love with Edward after all. My initial response was anger. How could he doubt me so much? After a moment, I calmed and realized what it must cost him to be this vulnerable with me. I had only ever seen Carlisle under complete and absolute control. This kind of uncertainty was new to him. I understood why he would be struggling. Don't you think I have the same fears? I asked softly, willing him to look at me again. I have longed for you, Carlisle. Ever since the moment I saw you, and my dreams have been filled with you ever since. Every morning I wake up full of misery because I never once thought I would get to actually have you. Now that I do, my soul feels whole. We make each other whole. His gold eyes burned brightly into mine. Yes, I'm young and human, and this is happening fast, but this is not just lust or even infatuation. This is more. Please don't doubt me. Carlisle kissed my cheek gently, then dragged lips to my ear. I do not doubt you, Isabella. I do not doubt us. So you won't let your fears get to you. I'm doing my best not to. It's just you do not know what it means to me to finally find you after living so many lifetimes. I have waited over 300 years to find you. To find a soulmate, to find my soulmate. He kissed the side of my neck. I know you think you're prepared for this, for what we are getting ourselves into. But you are so young, so human. And Edward was your first love. It's hard to get rid of the fear that I will lose you because this was all too much too soon. Please try. I know down to my very core that this is right. That we are right. I could never be complete without you. Every fiber of my being feels it. I am yours, Carlisle. Body and soul. And I am yours. His hands slid down my back and he spun me around in his arms. You are beyond compare, Isabella. His lips met mine and we were adrift in ecstasy. Eventually, we had to break our kiss. But I at last felt ready for what came next. Time to go start our lives together. Our eternal lives. He reminded me as we got into the car. Here, he reached into the backseat and handed me a water bottle. You're probably dehydrated. I rolled my eyes. I can't wait for the day when I don't need to be doctored by you. He shot a weary glance at me, then focused on the road. When do you think that might be? I don't know. I'd known without a doubt that I did want to become a vampire. But with Edward unwilling to even discuss it, I'd never really considered a timeline. I know I don't want to wait too long. How long is too long? I bit my lip as I considered, how old were you? Before you turned, I mean. I was 23. Practically middle-aged back then. He laughed and winked at me devilishly. You could wait longer than that though, if you want more time to be human. No, I don't think I even want to wait that long. I want our forever to start soon. He nodded, never taking his eyes off the road as he raised my hand to his lips and kissed my palm. Whenever you decide it's time, I'll be willing. Even forever will not be long enough with you. When we pulled up to the house, I expected to feel overcome with nerves and anxiety, but it didn't come. I only felt a resolve in what we were about to do. There was no point in delaying it. Our hands instinctively found each other as we walked into the living room. Bella, why are you back? I heard Edward's voice before I saw him. He materialized a few feet in front of us. His eyes locked onto our hands. He looked at Carlisle, studying him, searching his mind, and his face steadily became engulfed with anger. Edward. Carlisle used an incredibly calm and soothing tone, probably the same one he used with patience. We need to have a conversation. How? Edward was looking at me now, eyes full of a question. How did this happen? Bella, did he hurt you? I tightened my grip on Carlisle's hand and took a deep breath. No, he didn't hurt me, Edward. Not at all. And it didn't just happen. It's been there. Always. Since the moment we met. Carlisle finished for me. He gently ran his thumb along the back of my hand. I'm no longer blocking you out. You can see the truth, all of it. No. In a flash, Edward lunged for Carlisle. Teeth bared, he tackled him to the ground. Another flash and Carlisle had Edward pinned against a wall. I hadn't Odic the rest of the family entering the room, but Emmett and Alice were now restraining Edward from either side. Carlisle let go of him and took a step back. You have to have realized that this obsession you have for her, this addiction, it's not healthy. It isn't truly love. Carlisle looked at Edward with pity. I'm sorry it had to happen this way, but she's not your soulmate. And you think she's yours? Edward asked through clenched teeth. Carlisle spoke without hesitation. I know she is. I had been frozen in place during this whole exchange, scared to move as I observed the chaos. I felt pain for Edward. Pain and guilt. It was awful to have to face the truth this way. Bella, he pleaded, shifting his focus to me, it's not true. Tell me it's not true. I went to stand next to Carlisle. I'm sorry, Edward. I really am. I care for you, I have love for you as a family, but what we had, it wasn't right. It wasn't real love. We weren't right. This isn't right. Edward's words were laced with bitterness. You're a human. He's a vampire. You can't be soulmates. None of us should be in your life. Not me, not him, no one. We need to leave. No, Edward. Alice's melodically voice was thick with emotion. How could you ever plan to know? Absolutely not. I can see the plan you decided on, it would never work. None of us would go along with it. How could you ever even think of abandoning her? It took a moment for everyone to absorb what they were saying. That should be proof enough for you. My voice was quiet, but steady. If you could ever even consider doing that to me. Leaving me without a second thought, then you never loved me, Edward. Love doesn't abandon even if it's hurt and angry. You need to accept that we were not meant for each other. It's time to let go of what we were. I was hit with overwhelming relief as I said the words. I could breathe again. I could exist freely. I could experience 1,000 lifetimes with my true love. My soulmate. I felt Carlisle take my hand. Almost as if in response to my thoughts. I am meant for someone else. He has my soul. Edward didn't respond. He stared at us for a long moment, looking from me to Carlisle, then down at our hands. I felt like I was holding my breath, waiting for him to argue. Instead, he turned away from us and left the room. There, we did it. It's over, Carlisle whispered in my ear, and now you're all mine to ravish. Quote. Emmett cleared his throat. Not that I'm not happy for you, but what the hell is going on? Everyone was looking at us with the same question in their eyes. I didn't sense any animosity coming from them, just a hesitant curiosity. Though Carlisle had explained his true relationship with Esme, I was still filled with relief when I saw she was smiling at me. Isn't it obvious? Esme asked. Carlisle has finally found his mate. Bella is another kindred spirit with deep compassion. They were clearly made for each other. Carlisle grinned at Esme and everyone visibly relaxed. Everyone except Rosalie, that is. But, instead of the distaste she typically looked at me with, there was remorse in her eyes. Bella, my name sounded foreign on her tongue. I knew you were not right for Edward. I could see it from the beginning, and that's why I've never liked you or bothered to know you better. I can tell this is different, though I've watched Carlisle struggle to go through this life alone for decades, and I've never seen him nearly as happy as he looks right now. I was amazed. If you'd asked me yesterday, I would have said Rosalie was more likely to rip my throat out than make peace. Please forgive me. There's nothing to forgive. I offered her a hesitant smile. She smiled back, then went to sit next to Emmett on the couch. Everyone else had gone, too. I felt solid arms wrap around my waist and cool lips against my neck. Want to go upstairs? Carlisle whispered and kissed the hollow behind my ear. I nodded and he tightened his arms around me. Close your eyes this time. A rush of wind, then a creaking of a door, and we were somewhere else. Somewhere new. I'd never seen this room before. After a moment, I realized it was Carlisle's. Books were everywhere. They were falling out of the overstuffed bookshelves, strewn about the bed, and stacked all over the floor. I slowly walked around the room to look at the titles. There was a bit of everything. Obscure medical dictionaries, classic fiction that I suspected were all first editions, endless encyclopedias, and even some more modern mystery and thriller paperbacks. Is this what you do instead of sleep? Mostly, this or work, he shrugged. What do you like to read? I sat down on the edge of his bed and let out a laugh. Everything. I love romance, sci-fi, horror, mysteries. I've been on a poetry kick lately, too. He moved to stand in front of me, but before I had time to fully admire him in this light, his lips were on me, fulfilling his promise to ravish me. In no time, our bodies were tangled together in an exquisite dance. He pushed me onto my back just as my hands found their way under his shirt. I eagerly slid them up his back, relishing in the feeling of his sculpted body. Before pulling the sweater over his head, his gold curls fell in front of his face in a way that made my body shiver with need. He lowered himself over me and started unbuttoning my shirt while kissing slowly down my chest to my stomach. With each button, the hunger I had for him seemed to multiply, and I felt a pressure steadily building between my legs. He reached the top of my jeans and began pulling them off as he gently kissed down my thighs. Carlisle. I moaned his name over and over again, completely lost to the utter bliss of his touch. I pulled his head back up to my mouth and kissed him with a deep need as his hands caressed my body. He slid a hand into my panties and I flinched involuntarily. He backed away from me in worry. Did I hurt you? I thought I was being gentle enough. No, that's not it. I could feel the blood rushing to my cheeks. I haven't ever. I'm a virgin. Really? Carlisle seemed a little taken aback. I know that you and Edward never slept together. But I assumed society was more liberal with expressing passion physically in this era. That doesn't mean I ever found anyone I wanted to express it with. I yelled out and locked my arms around his neck to pull him back to me. I'm sorry, I flinched. I've just never felt anything like that, and it took me by surprise. You have nothing to apologize for. I'm the one who's being a little brash. You are far too beautiful, Isabella. He wrapped his arms around me and spun us around so I was laying on top of him. I don't want to do anything you're not ready for. If you need us to take it slow, we will. We have all the time in the world. I appreciate that, but it's not that I'm not ready for it. I was caught off guard before, but I do want you. I want you so badly it almost hurts. My entire body burns for you, Carlisle. I kissed him to emphasize this. I wanted him to know, to feel, how much I wanted him. How badly I needed him. His fingers traced circles on my back, but there was a hesitance in his movements that hadn't existed before. That wouldn't do. I sat up slightly to shift my weight to my hips and had to suppress a gasp when I felt him against me. Tentatively, I ground against him and let out a loud moan. Even through his jeans, the hard length of him combined with the cold of his skin was the most amazing thing I'd ever felt. I pushed Ed down harder, which earned me a moan from his lips. I cut his moan off with a kiss and continued the circular motion of grinding against him. His hands seemed almost rougher, stronger, as he caressed my back and easily discarded my bra. His fingers traced over my nipples and I gasped. Oh, Carlisle. One of his hands found its way into my hair and he lightly tugged my head back. He kissed from the base of my throat up to my ear. all the while his other hand was gently rubbing and squeezing each of my breasts in turn. I love the way that you say my name. He rocked his hips up into mine, with more force than I thought he would have dared. I only wanted more, needed him more. Carlisle, oh. Carlisle, Carlisle, Carlisle. Flipping us over again so that I was laying on my back, he kissed down to my chest, stopping to flick his tongue over my nipples. I was lost in a fog of bliss as he continued to lick various parts of my chest and abdomen in a meticulous way while sliding down my body. He stopped when he reached my panties. Are you sure this is okay? Yes. My voice was little more than a breathy moan. Carlisle, please. He kissed along the hemline, then pulled my panties off in one quick sweeping motion. His eyes glazed over slightly as he took me in, completely naked and panting on his bed. I could hear a faint rumble emanating from his chest. You are absolutely glorious, Bella. He took his time kissing up my legs, the inner parts of my thighs, before slowly sweeping his tongue over my sensitive nub that seemed to be pulsating in time with my erratic heartbeat. Oh God. Carlisle, don't stop. He put his hands on each of my thighs to keep me steady while he continued his ministrations between my legs. His tongue traced a path down to my aching lips that were surely drenched with need for him. Then he circled back up to my clit. He continued that pattern over and over again. Just when I thought I could never feel anything better than this, he placed his whole mouth over it and gently sucked. Carlisle. I think oh. Carlisle. The lights in the room seemed to flare around us as he pushed a finger into me, all the while sucking and licking my clit. My back arched and he removed the finger, only to push it back in more roughly. My hands became fists around his sheets as I lost myself to pure ecstasy. Carlisle. I screamed out his name as I climaxed. He didn't stop until my body went limp with exhaustion. You taste incredible. He pulled me against his chest and wrapped a blanket around us. I could devour you for hours. I titled my head up to kiss him. I'll have to take you up on that sometime. I was at a loss for words. Absolutely amazing. I didn't think anything could feel so good. It will feel even better after you're turned. I let out a moan at the very thought. He laughed. If you didn't seem to be on the verge of unconsciousness, I wouldn't have stopped. I wanted to tell him that he didn't need to stop. That I was ready for more. But the events of the night had finally caught up with me. I closed my eyes and rested my head on his chest. The coolness of him was soothing. I knew I'd be asleep within minutes. I don't ever want to leave this bed, I mumbled against his chest. Someday soon, you won't have to. He kissed the top of my head. Good night, Bella. I'll wake you early to take you home. I didn't want Charlie to notice you're gone. Oh, no. I'd completely forgotten about my impossible dilemma with Charlie. The sun had not yet come up when Carlisle woke me. He smothered my body in gentle kisses until I opened my eyes. He looked somehow younger today, more animated and full of life than I had ever seen him. We should go. Not yet, I sighed. My whole life had changed last night. I had changed. But, somehow, I was still a senior in high school with an overprotective father. I wish we could just disappear together for a while and not deal with anything in the real world. Carlisle pulled me into his arms and laughed. We could, you know. We could easily move somewhere new where nobody knows us and never look back. He looked down at me in wonder. I don't think that is what you really want though. Especially if you're planning on becoming one of us soon. He was right. As much as I wanted to start living my chosen immortal life with the Cullens, I only had a finite amount of time to spend with my human family. I wouldn't rob Charlie of that. I kissed him deeply. I do plan on that happening soon. Very soon. Birds began to chirp outside. What do we do in the meantime? I know that we'll have to pretend in front of most people there's no real choice there. But with Charlie, since Edward and I are broken up, I can use Alice as an excuse to be over here all the time. Though, as I plan on spending every possible minute with you, I think Charlie will grow suspicious of that pretty quickly. Carlisle sat up as he considered. You're right that we will have to pretend for most of the outside world. There isn't an alternative that wouldn't shatter our backstory. However, I think that we should at least try and say something to Charlie. I also do not plan on leaving your side unless absolutely necessary, which would raise a question or two. He winked at me. I wonder though, have you ever thought about what you'll tell him once you become a vampire? Kind of. I figured I would just tell him and Renee that I got into an out-of-state school for college. And after that, I shrugged, I honestly haven't thought that far ahead yet. Until last night, I wasn't sure I would ever get to be one of you. Do you think Charlie could handle the truth? I was stunned. Did he really mean to tell Charlie? You mean, like, the whole truth? I bit my lip as I considered, I really don't know. Maybe. Carlisle lowered his head into the crook of my neck and playfully kissed my jugular. I think we should tell him. Not only because I cannot think of another way to explain as I also don't want you to have to hide when you turn. You should not have to give up your family. You are going to see the world grow, die, and be rebirthed thousands of times. It takes a toll on you never having true familial attachments. You should keep yours for as long as possible. Sunlight began to creep in through the windows. I don't have a shift at the hospital until tomorrow. Should we tell him today? Quote, I racked my brain trying to think of another way, any other way, to tell Charlie I was involved with Carlisle without telling him the truth. From an outside perspective, it would seem like I broke up my boyfriend's parents' marriage. Not to mention that even though Carlisle's physical age was only 23, everyone in town assumed he was in his mid-30s due to all of his accomplishments. Charlie would never buy anything but the truth. Okay, let's tell him. I begrudgingly got out of bed and dressed. Carlisle had already changed into light jeans and a black sweater. Once I was ready, he wrapped his arms around me tightly. Remember to close your eyes, he instructed. I locked my arms around his neck as the air became a whirlwind around us. Someday soon, I would be able to move like this. I would be as fast and strong and maybe even as beautiful as he was. I didn't open my eyes until the wind stopped. We were in my room. Is Charlie still asleep? I whispered. Yes. Instead of putting me down, he moved us onto my bed and ran his hands playfully through my hair. I should probably come in through the front door when he's awake. Probably. I couldn't believe we were really going to do this. Would Charlie even believe it? I have no idea what to say to him. We'll figure it out. In my experience, visual demonstrations usually do the trick. I was about to ask him what exactly he meant by that, but his hand was wandering down my body, and I could no longer resist the urge to kiss him. The taste of his lips was absolute heaven. I moved my leg up over his waist and gently pushed my hips against his. Isabella, he moaned, you have no idea what you are doing to me. He grabbed my waist with both hands and pulled over him. I cannot wait to taste you again. He pushed harder against me and I felt my body melt. Carlisle. I tugged at his sweater and he sat up so I could pull it off. I took my time, running my fingers down the taut muscles on his chest and stomach. He was too perfect. He made to unbutton my shirt, but I stopped him. No, not yet. It's my turn to explore you. I brought my lips to the hollow at the base of his throat. Licking the spot before kissing it lightly, then started my way down the line that went from the center of his chest all the way to his navel. My hands traced down his arms, feeling every groove of his muscles. Every bulge of his veins. When I reached the top of his jeans, I carefully undid the button and he lifted his hips so I could pull them down. I slid down his briefs at the same time, freeing his very impressive length. Even though I didn't have anything other than a few HBO shows and an ill-fated internet search when I was 14 to compare him to, I knew he was big. Maybe even too big. The prospect of it was daunting. Summoning all the confidence I could, I hesitantly licked the tip, earning a low moan from Carlisle's lips. Feeling a little more assured in my abilities, I licked from the base back up to the tip, then wrapped my hand around the lower portion. I soon found a steady rhythm with my hand as I brought my mouth over the top. Bella, yes. The sound of him moaning my name spurred me on. I took as much of him into my mouth as I comfortably could. After a moment, I was able to suck on him as I bobbed my head in time with my hand. Isabella, why yes. I stopped. Before I could act, he'd pulled away from me and tugged his pants back up. A very large, uneasy pit was forming in my stomach. Blood rushed to my cheeks. Was that wrong? What? No, not at all. That was amazing. He pulled me up to lay on his chest. I only stopped you because I can hear Charlie waking up and I don't know how well I would have been able to control myself if you'd kept going. I heard Charlie's footsteps then, walking down to the kitchen for his morning coffee. I couldn't suppress a groan. It's not too late to disappear. Don't tempt me, he kissed the top of my head. It's taking every drop of self-control I have not to run away with you this very minute. So how do we do this? I tried to imagine how Charlie would react and was thankful that Carlisle was bulletproof. After you go downstairs, I'll arrive at the door and we can talk to him about everything. I don't know how he'll react to us or to the truth about what I am. See, Harley has always seemed very grounded and secure in his beliefs. I don't think he will believe anything we say until I show him. I think it would help if I tried to lay the groundwork first. Maybe even tell him about us alone before you come in for the rest. I'm worried he'll feel too blindsided and maybe even attacked if he has no warning at all before you show up. You should give us a few minutes to talk as daughter to father first. Of course, whatever you think he'll respond to best. He nudged my chin up for a quick kiss. I'll wait until you cue me to knock on the door. Or if it seems like I'm drowning, please. I gave him one last kiss before getting out of bed to change into a fresh pair of clothes. I threw on a pair of black jeans and a deep gray cropped sweater. Carlisle watched me dress, then was up and had his shirt back on in an instant. I watched him from the mirror next to my door while I pulled my hair into a quick bun. You look beautiful, he wrapped his arms around me from behind. I rolled my eyes at the compliment. I looked nervous. I was nervous. Are you sure we should do this? Bella, he tightened his hold on me, it will be okay. Trust me. I spun around so I could look into his bright gold eyes. All of my fears vanished. Okay, let's do this. When I got to the kitchen, I found Charlie sitting at the table reading the paper. Morning bells, you're up early. Yeah, I couldn't sleep. My hands were shaking as I got a mug out of the cupboard. Dad. I need to talk to you about something. He looked up at me warily and set the paper down. What's up? Before I even tried to answer, I poured myself a cup of coffee. Well, I leaned against the counter for support. Some things have happened, changed, and I wanted to fill you in. Sit down, Bells. Charlie looked genuinely worried now. What's going on? I took my seat across from him at the table and forced myself to start talking. So Edward and I broke up. Oh, he was trying not to grin, but at least attempted to feign remorse. Sorry to hear that, Bells, really. Are you okay? More than okay. I took a sip from my mug. In fact, I met someone. He raised his eyebrows. Well, not met. I already knew him, but we started. I'm with someone else now. When did all this happen? Wasn't Edward the one who picked you up yesterday? His tone was cautious, but I could see the shock in his eyes. Yeah, it had happened pretty quickly, but I'd always felt a connection to him. Not Edward, I emphasized, but the person I'm with now. Last night, I found out that his feelings were the same and it all just sorta happened. I already ended things with Edward. Look, if you're happy, I'm happy. You know that, Bells. But who's this new guy? Do I know him? He glanced at my bandaged arm, eyes narrowing into a glare. That wasn't from Edward, right? He didn't do that when you broke up with him. No, of course not. It really was an accident. In fact, I hesitated. Telling him that it was Carlisle was the hard part. The accident kinda led to everything else happening. What do you mean? Who's the guy? Well, he's part of the Cullen family, too. He got me cleaned up and that's when we had a chance to talk about the insanely strong connection we have. Oh, Bella, aren't both of those other boys in relationships? He shook his head. They're in college now, right? Isn't that a bit old for you? Great. If he already had a problem with the possibility of me dating a guy a year or two older than me, I couldn't imagine what he was going to say about Carlisle. I took a breath to calm myself and looked Charlie dead in the eyes. It was now or never. Actually, Dad, I tried my best to have a steady tone. It's not Emmett or Jasper. He looked really confused now. After the accident, he was stitching up my arm and all of our passion came flooding out. Everything we'd always felt for each other, but couldn't ever say. I could see the realization start to spread through him. I know it sounds crazy, I can barely believe it myself, but he's the one. Carlisle is the one. There's no Dad. Are you okay? Charlie's face was turning a deep shade of red. A fury seemed to be growing so deep inside of him that he couldn't even breathe. I jumped up to get him a glass of water. Breathe, Dad. He took a large drink from the glass. I let out a sigh of relief when his skin started to look normal again. That relief was extremely short-lived. Bella, his voice was calm. Too calm. You can't be serious. Dr. Cullen is married. He's a father even if he is younger and they are all adopted. You can't seriously be having an affair with him. It's not an affair. There was a knock on the door and my heart skipped a beat as I rushed to answer it. Dad, there's more I need to tell you, but you have to try and stay calm. Charlie looked positively bewildered. There's more. He shook his head, cursing under his breath. Who's at the door? I opened the door to let Carlisle in and silently thanked him with my eyes. He winked at me as he entered, then rounded the small corner into the kitchen. I closed the door and followed. Charlie was already turning another concerning shade of red. I could swear I saw him glance to where his gun holster hung in the hallway. I knew I would end up thankful for Carlisle's invulnerability. Charlie. Carlisle offered out a hand, but Charlie folded his arms. He was looking at Carlisle with disgust. I suppose I do have a lot to explain. What's there to explain? Charlie scoffed. You're taking advantage of my daughter. Quote. I opened my mouth to argue, only for Carlisle to beat me to it. I absolutely have not taken advantage of her at all. I would never. There's a lot you don't know about me, Charlie. In fact, almost everything you know about me is a lie. He looked at me as if asking my permission to continue. I nodded. I am not married and physically I am only 23. Haven't you noticed that my family has not aged a day in the years we've lived in Forks? That we keep just a little too much to ourselves. Charlie was silent, eyes skeptical as he absorbed Carlisle's words. The family and I. Carlisle continued, we are not human. Charlie stared at Carlisle, then me, and burst out in a fit of hysterical laughter. Dad, I tried to keep my annoyance at his reaction out of my tone. This isn't a joke. He ignored me and fell further into his absurd state. Carlisle chose that moment to move at full speed. He moved to one end of the kitchen, paused, then appeared just inches in front of Charlie's face and exposed his fangs. Charlie stopped his manic episode. He froze altogether, gulping down the last of his laughter. Charlie, you can see the truth. Carlisle had let the human mask fall. He was still as only the immortal could be. I know that Billy Black must have told you the stories. Why, you're it. Charlie's voice was barely a whisper, the cold ones. Carlisle nodded. I was even the one who made the treaty with their little pack. Little pack. Like the other legend. Carlisle, I couldn't contain my curiosity. Do you mean there are really wolves in La Push? My mind went to Jacob. To that gloomy day on the beach. When he told me the stories, it was clear he didn't believe any of them. But, then again, who would without having seen or experienced it for themselves? Yes, it's all true. He hadn't looked away from Charlie, and now you know, Chief Swan. He backed up to stand by my side. I am not an adulterer. We only tell peep. Renesmee is my wife for show to blend in. What I am is an immortal vampire who is absolutely enraptured by your daughter. Charlie didn't speak, didn't breathe. His eyes hadn't left Carlisle. I was about to get him another glass of water when he fainted. Charlie's body slumped forward. It wobbled for a second, then slid sideways off of the old kitchen chair. Carlisle caught him just before his head hit the ground. Well, this definitely couldn't have gone worse, I said with heavy sarcasm, watching as he carried Charlie across the hall and set him down on the couch. Carlisle shook his head. It could have been a lot worse. Bella, is he okay? Yes, he's fine. He was checking Charlie's pulse. I can already hear him coming to. I'd better make this quick. He appeared in front of me. In an instant and wrapped his arms around my waist. I felt his lips crash down onto mine in an outpouring of need. I wove my hands into his hair and pulled him closer. In a heartbeat, he was gone. I looked around to find him in the living room helping Charlie sit up. I was left standing open-mouthed in the hallway. Tease, I muttered quietly enough that I knew only he would hear me. A slight smile pulled at the corner of his lips. But he was looking at Charlie in earnest. Are you all right? Yeah, just give me a minute. It's a lot to spring on a guy. Charlie's eyes found me. They were full of accusations. How long, Bells? How long have you known? A while. Guilt overcame me when I thought about all the lies I'd told him. I found out about everything just after I moved here. He shook his head, whether in anger or hurt. I couldn't tell, but I was relieved to see some color return to his skin. And you, he looked at Carlisle with a hint of fierceness. You might not be married, you might even be a decent guy. But what kind of future would you ever hope to have with my daughter? It's not like she's one of you. Dad, my voice was soft, careful. I'd hoped to avoid this conversation until he'd had a while to sit with everything else. I'm not one of them yet. It took a few minutes for understanding to show in his eyes. It was almost immediately replaced by a deep sadness. My heart broke for him. Bella, you can't really want that. Billy told me about them. They're not human. Not natural. They even kill people. Actually, Charlie, my family does not kill anyone. I'm certain Billy told you why the Quileute tribe made the treaty with us. We only feed on animals. Bella will never have to hurt a soul, not that she ever could. Carlisle gave me a half smile. Now that you know the truth, I need to have your word that you will keep my secret, Charlie. If you tell anyone, it would put both you and Bella in danger. Charlie nodded. Sure, I won't tell anyone. But how long until she's A versus Vam? He swallowed hard as he struggled to say the word. How long until she's like you? That's entirely up to her. I swear to you I will not force her hand on this. It will not happen until she chooses it, and not a day before. Carlisle's expressions changed then. He looked almost nervous. I had hoped that, in telling you the truth, you would be accepting of her decision. I do not want Bella to have to choose between me and her family. Is this really what you want, Bells? Charlie's voice was hoarse. It is. Like I said before, he's the one. I went to stand next to Carlisle. He took my hand, lifted it up to his lips, and kissed my knuckles. He is everything I could ever want or need. Charlie left not long after that. He muttered something about Fizz. Hing and Billy having some explaining to do. I breathed out a large sigh of relief as I watched the cruiser drive away from the living room window. See, Carlisle whispered into my ear and hugged my body from behind. It wasn't that bad. And now I have you all to myself. He was kissing my neck, dragging his lips up and down my jugular. I want you, Isabella. The hunger in his voice was tangible. Then take me. I turned around in his arms and kissed him eagerly. Hungrily. Everything was finally right. I was free of Edward and I didn't have to lie to Charlie any longer. The relief combined with the desire to be with him overwhelmed my body. I pushed my hips into his, feeling his hard length. A deep, rumbling growl emitted from his chest and he backed me up against the wall, lifting my legs up around his waist. Bella, he moaned, pulling his lips away so I could breathe. I want nothing more than to take you right now. To rip all the clothing from your body and devour every inch of you until you're screaming my name to the heavens. I was about to tell him to do it, but he cut me off with a quick kiss. I had a few hours to think about it last night though, and I want your furs. Tea time, our first time together, to be extraordinary. After you become a vampire, most human memories are dull, hazy things. I want us making love for the first time to be a remarkable memory for you even after you're changed. You want it to be special. I couldn't resist teasing him. He laughed loudly and nodded. For lack of a better term, yes. I don't think against the wall of your father's living room is the best place to make that happen. He kissed me, but without the same fervor as before. A little annoyed by this, I kissed him back with as much force as I could and slid my hands under his sweater to drag up his back. Maybe it was my human hormones inducing a lack of self-control, but I felt that I couldn't wait even a minute longer to have him. I was sure that anywhere, anytime, with him would be special. What was the point in waiting? I tugged the sweater up his sculpted shoulders and pulled it off. He thrust me harder against the wall, nudging his hips into mine with more pressure. Carlisle, I moaned into his neck, struggling to breathe. He rotated his hips, pressing roughly against me. Please, I need you. I'm so ready. Oh. A sensuous laugh escaped his perfect lips as he ground into me again. I know you are. I can smell how ready you are for me. You are perfectly delicious, Isabella. He sighed and pulled away slightly. Let me do this for you, love. Please. I will make it better than anything you could possibly dream of. It will be worth the wait. How long of a wait? I feel like I'm going to spontaneously combust. Smiling wryly, he put his lips right over my ear. Don't worry, love. I'll have you writhing in ecstasy beneath me before the day is through. An hour later, Alice was hauling a pile of clothes twice her size out of a grandiose closet while I stared at her, mortified. I just asked to borrow one dress, Alice. You'll need a lot more than one dress to get you through the week. A week? Yep, and you get no say in your attire, she giggled softly. I know you'll thank me later. I sighed and tried to focus on making out even the colors of the fabrics she was sorting into a suitcase. Even 3 days ago, I would not have allowed Alice to give me anything. let alone pack what was sure to be a very lavish wardrobe. 3 days ago I wouldn't have considered disappearing on a romantic trip for a week. I would never, ever have dared tell Charlie the truth. All these things the old me would not have done, but now they all somehow seemed natural. Almost easy. Everything with Carlisle was turning out to be that way. Now that I had a moment to breathe to reflect on what I was sure would happen tonight, I felt a little panicked. I knew that I was ready to have sex with Carlisle, but my stomach was still full of butterflies. On the brief occasions that I considered the possibility of sleeping with Edward, I hadn't been nearly this nervous. Maybe it's because I knew how unlikely that was to ever happen, or because my relationship with Edward was exceedingly dull compared to what I now had with Carlisle. Whatever the reason, I became fraught with anxiety thinking about tonight. I took a deep breath to calm myself. Alice, can I ask you something? She paused her packing to look at me. Of course. Are you all right? Yeah, it's just I know it's so awkward for me to bring up, but I don't know how tonight. If tonight is going to, if Carlisle will. Oh, you're worried about sex. There's no reason to stress about it, Bella, really. Once you're in the moment, your body will give in to instinct. There's really nothing to it. Unless, she dropped her voice, are you worried about his control? What? No, definitely not. Carlisle has the most control out of everyone. I know he won't hurt me. Then what are you so anxious about? I guess it's that I know my body will figure out what to do, but Carlisle is so much more experienced. I'm afraid that I won't be enough for him, you know. I don't want him to be bored with me. I buried my head in my hands to hide the blush that was bound to be covering my face. Alice laughed melodically. I know you're new to this, Bella, but really, Carlisle has never felt this way about anyone. Ever. He's never fallen for someone before. He'll never be bored with you. I can see your future together, and it's going to be magical. When did you see our future? Did you see it before? When I was still with Edward. She'd already assured me that she supported my relationship with her father figure, but I wondered for how long she could have kept something like this from me. Yes, she admitted apologetically, I knew from the beginning, but everything worked out the way it had to. Didn't Edward ever see it in your head? Denial is a powerful thing. Even now he hasn't accepted it. When he comes back from Denali, it's going to be hard for him. She shrugged and zipped up the overstuffed suitcase. Oh well, there's nothing we can do about it right now. She held up 2 dresses in front of me. One was off-white and made of intricately woven lace that had a plunging neckline. The other was a deep blue with a slit up the thigh. Alice, I whined, can't why? Oh, you pick something at least halfway reasonable. Nope, she grinned, I can see you in both, but I think Carlisle will have a harder time resisting the white one. She gave it to me, then held out some small pieces of material that looked suspiciously like lingerie. I opened my mouth to argue, but she thrust it into my hands. Trust me, I changed into the outfit and was surprised at how comfortable I felt. The fit was perfect and clung to my body in all the right places. It was a little too perfect. You didn't buy this dress for yourself, did you? She was busy pulling out various pieces of her makeup collection. Guilty as charged. I've been waiting so long to share everything with you. And you and Carlisle are going to be so good for each other. You are perfect counterparts. I was so distracted by her promises of my future with Carlisle that I didn't even protest when she started in with eyeliner. The makeup was bound to be more than I wanted. That didn't matter though, the only thing that mattered was Carlisle. I couldn't believe we were actually going away together. What are you going to tell Charlie? I was hoping time with Billy would make him feel better about knowing everything. But I didn't think he would be okay with me leaving for a week. Don't you worry about Charlie. Esme and I are going to talk to him. He loves us. She spun me around to look in the mirror. Wow. Alice, wow. I could barely believe my reflection. She'd done 2 small braids on either side of my head that met in the back, giving me an almost bohemian look when combined with the lacy dress and the rest of my long hair left wavy. The makeup was somehow perfect. It was understated enough that I still felt like me, just a little eyeliner and mascara with pale pink lipstick. I felt gorgeous. Thank you so much, Alice. You are absolutely sensational, love. I jumped a little as Carlisle appeared behind me. You are the most beautiful woman I have ever laid eyes on. He put his hands on my shoulders. We complement each other well. He was wearing a white button-up shirt, with the sleeves rolled up on his forearms, and dark jeans. A simple outfit, but he looked like a Greek god in anything he wore. Are you ready to go? It's time. Are you going to tell me where we're going? I was trying hard to focus on anything other than his hand on my thigh. He was delicately massaging it as he drove. I felt like I was going to burst. Nope, he winked, it would ruin the surprise. The drive was maddening, but I was glad to have the time to talk to him without getting too distracted. There was still so much I didn't know about him. We talked about everything. The memories he had of his human life, how proud he was to be practicing medicine, what my relationship with my parents was like, and the few human friends I had. We eventually moved on to more basic topics, our favorite books, movies, and music. What's your favorite book for when you're feeling stoic? Easy. It's W.H. And we talk about when we talk about love. Raymond Carver is a genius. He beamed at me. Carver is one of my favorites, too. My favorite passage from that one is, I could hear my heart beating. I could hear everyone's heart. I could hear the human noise we sat there making, not one of us moving, not even when the room went dark. I never truly understood the beauty of it until last night when you were asleep next to me. A few hours in, he pulled into a marina. I didn't know how far south we'd gone, but I was pretty sure we were somewhere in Northern California. He parked the car and got our bags out. I followed him down to the dock, thankful that the weather here was also cloudy. He walked straight to a colossal boat that had the name, Isabella, skillfully painted on the back in bright gold letters. I stood there with my mouth hanging open, awestruck. This couldn't be real. Carlisle quickly set our bags on board, then circled back to where I was still standing on the dock. He enclosed his arms around my waist and kissed my neck. My heart was racing from being overwhelmed. Do you like it? He whispered into my ear. I would have set it up myself if there had been more time, but very things should have been done to my specifications. Carlisle, I love it. But, you really shouldn't have. It's too much. Way too much. Bella, no. It's not. Nothing is too much. I want to give you everything I can. Please, love. Please let me. All he had to do was call me, love, and I was putty in his hands. Okay, I consented, but please keep it within reason. No promises. He swept me up into his arms and brought us to the top deck. It was beautiful, of course. A small dining area was set up in the center that overlooked the sea. I lounged against the railing while he undocked the boat and got us on our course. Where are we going? I asked when he returned. The marina was already shrinking into the distance. I have a few different stops planned. A day in San Diego, 3 days in Mexico. And on the way back we can stop wherever you want. He lit the candles on the dining table. I mean that we can go absolutely anywhere you want. We could even set course to Hawaii, or go down to South America, though I'm sure Charlie would be upset if I kept you away for that long. Mexico is good. I've never been. I looked out at the horizon. The sunset was full of bright pinks and oranges. The colors danced along the water. It's breathtaking. He nodded in agreement. I can't wait to show you everything, Bella. The world is ours. We will have an eternity to explore it together. He pulled me into his arms and kissed me with the same yearning I'd felt this morning. I'm going to spend days at a time making love to you. My stomach growled and I broke our kiss with deep chagrin. Sorry, I mumbled, as the kitchen stalked. Don't apologize, love. He kissed me again. Relax up here, I'm making you dinner. You cook. I was skeptical. He winked at me and disappeared without a word. I sat down on a bench at the edge of the deck and gazed across the open ocean. It had barely been a day, one single day, since the first kiss that changed my life forever. The amount of things that could change a day, that amount that I could change, was astonishing. I was eternally grateful that we were taking a week to get away, but what would happen when did go back to Forks? When I had to pretend to sleep in my room alone at Charlie's. When I had to go to school and Carlisle to the hospital. I didn't want to be away from him for a moment, let alone a minimum of 8 hours a day. I hated how much we would have to lie while remaining in Forks. The sooner I became a vampire and we moved somewhere new, the better. Carlisle was back in front of me a few minutes later. Watched as he set the table and pushed away all thoughts but those of the present. We could figure everything else out later. Right now was meant for us to simply enjoy being together. He placed a delicious smelling plate in front of me. Looking pleased. Gnocchi quattro formaggi, he said with a perfect accent. I took a bite. It's good. Really good. Who knew vampires could cook? Something I pick. Kept up posing as a medical student in Italy. He poured me a drink. I'll have to take you soon. You'll love it. We talked about the places we wanted to visit while I ate. The food was helping me control the butterflies in my stomach. I had never seen Carlisle's face by candlelight before. I was completely mesmerized by the immense beauty of him. What did I ever do to deserve someone like this? I eventually finished eating and Carlisle cleaned up before I could help. I tried my best to hide my nerves about what came next. I didn't know how to initiate it. It's time you had a tour, love. He took my hand and led me to the lower sections of the boat. All of the furnishings were extravagant. Of course, there was even a hot tub on the lower deck. I thought it would help warm my skin, he explained sheepishly. We turned down a long hallway to the main bedroom. He opened the door and I let out a small gasp of amazement at the sight before me. A trail of rose petals led from the entrance the way across to the enormous bed in the center of the room. There, the petals were carefully laid out to form a large rosette. Surrounding the bed, covering every possible surface of the room, were hundreds of candles. Is it too much? His voice held a hint of apprehension. I spun around to pull him to me, locked my fingers into his hair, and kissed him with all of the devotion and adoration I'd felt over the last day. It's perfect, I whispered against his lips. Without breaking our kiss, he picked me up and unzipped the back of my dress while walking forward. He tenderly laid me down on the rose-covered bed and pulled the dress off, revealing the lingerie I'd worn in preparation for this. For him. He let out a loud growl and his eyes clouded with lust. I tugged at his shirt and he ripped it off while kissing from the hollow of my neck up to my lips. My hands trailed eagerly up his back. I wrapped my legs around his waist and pushed roughly against him. Isabella, he moaned, pushing back. He ripped the thin fabric that encased my breasts and brought his mouth down to my nipples. The feeling of his tongue swirling around the tip of each made my back arch. He brought and up to gently pinch my left nipple and lightly bit down on the right. Oh, he stopped. Are you okay? Yes. I was struggling to catch my breath. Isn't it dangerous? For you to bite, I mean. Only if I break the skin, but I won't. Love, trust me. After giving me a quick kiss, he moved to my neck and carefully bit and licked down my jugular. I ran my hands through his hair as he continued down to my breasts. He nipped at each a little, then kissed his way back up to my lips. Carlisle, more. Please. Don't worry, love, we're just getting started. He let out a breathy laugh and dragged a finger down to the hem on my panties. As delectable as these look on you, I think it's time for them to go. He pulled them down slowly, playfully licking and nipping at my thighs. I was panting. By the time he brought his mouth up to my core, his tongue flicked out over my nub before he took it into his mouth and sucked. I locked my legs around his head and arched my back in an attempt to get him closer. Oh yes, Carlisle. My body started to tremble as he skillfully pushed a finger in me. He moved it in and out at an inhuman speed while his mouth continued its barrage on my sensitive flesh. I wanted more. Needed more of him. All of him. Carlisle, I want oh God. He'd added a second finger, increasing to an impossible speed as his tongue swirled around me. I bucked my hips up, trying to get him even deeper within me. The pressure in it became so great that I could hardly breathe. My entire body seemed to be vibrating. Just when I thought it couldn't get any better, he carefully grazed his teeth over my delicate nub. Carlisle. Yes. Oh Carlisle. I screamed his name over and over again as I was overcome by ecstasy. My vision clouded over and a sharp tingling sensation swept through my body. I had never, ever felt a release as strong as this. Carlisle slowly kissed his way back up my body, waiting for me to catch my breath. Are you okay to keep going? His voice was thick with desire. Yes, don't stop. Carlisle, I need you in me. He got up to take off his jeans, finally freeing his impressively solid length. My eyes raked over his body eagerly. Hungrily. His muscles tensed and flexed as he climbed back over me. He was too perfect. Adonis couldn't even hold a candle to him. Carlisle, my voice was hoarse, I need you. You have me. He caught my lips in a rough, passionate kiss as he pushed the tip of himself into me. I gasped as I felt the sheer size of him entering my core. The cold of his flesh against my overheated body produced an acut Ely invigorating rush throughout my flesh. He continued to push further and further into me, deeper than I would have thought possible. I'd never felt so full. My heart felt like it would beat right out of my chest. He paused, pulling his head back to look at me with his bright gold eyes. Are you okay? Yes, I managed to get out between erratic breaths. I've never felt so good. He started rocking his hips back and forth, removing himself from me before pushing back in. His pace grew steadily faster, harder, with each thrust. I was all consumed by him. He was everywhere, all around me, kissing and gripping and biting. The scent of him filled my every breath. Yes, Carlisle. I love you, Isabella. My heart audibly skipped a beat. I already knew he loved me, we were soulmates. But hearing him say the words made me cry out in pure happiness. Nothing could have made this moment more complete. Carlisle. I love you. Oh Carlisle. As he thrust into me with a fierceness driven by devout passion. We lost ourselves in utter bliss. Lost ourselves in each other. In our love. Our bodies melted together. Our souls became one. The fruition of our unyielding bond drowned us in a sea of continuous euphoria. The sun was high in the small cabin window when I eventually awoke. I reached next to me, wanting to pull Carlisle close, but felt nothing. The bed was empty. I jumped in a panic that only grew as I took in the room around me. We couldn't have done this, right? The candles had melted everywhere, the wax was solidified on every surface, and there were torn pieces of fabric mixed in with the rose petals. I looked down to see that the comforter was completely shredded. A bedpost had broken, leaving it tilted at an odd angle, and chunks of the headboard were missing. I found a note on the pillow next to mine, written in Carlisle's elegant script. Isabella. I'm sorry I am not there to see you wake. Love, you look too peaceful to disturb. I'm up top making sure we are on course. Come join me when you're ready. Yours, Carlisle. I groaned loudly as I got up. My whole body was insanely sore. I took a long shower to try and release the tension from my muscles. When I looked in the mirror, I noticed a trail of light bruises cascading down my body. They weren't that bad. A part of me had honestly expected worse. I dressed in a light blue sundress that covered my arms, thankful the sky was overcast. And tried to mimic the light makeup Alice had done for me yesterday. A wide smile spread across my face when I stepped into the small hallway. There was a trail of rose petals on the floor. I followed them to the upper deck where Carlisle was waiting. He dressed in black pants and a dark gray t-shirt. The ocean breeze was ruffling his golden hair. Good morning, love. When he turned to face me, his eyes were shrouded in pain. Are you okay? The bruises didn't look severe, but I can't believe I hurt you. I'm so sorry. Carlisle, don't. You have nothing to be sorry for. I'm fine. More than fine, actually. I'm absolutely wonderful. I flung my arms around his neck and kissed him. His arms wrapped around me and I smiled against his lips. This is where I belonged. This was home. I love you, Bella. I love you. I kissed him again. You were right, last night was better than anything I could have ever dreamed. That was only the beginning. The rest of the week passed by in a blur. We spent our days wandering through various towns up and down the coast, lounging in the boat when it was sunny, and spent hours upon hours exploring each other physically. Everything was easy with Carlisle. It was like breathing. With each passing second, I could feel the already irrevocable union between us grow to an extent I would not have believed possible. He was more than my soulmate, he was a part of my very being. I did not know how I'd existed without him up until now. It was just past midnight when we pulled up to Charlie's house at the end of the week. How could I go back there and deal with the pretense, the dull motions of an ordinary life? Even the concept of my previous life felt like a bizarre dream. I wish we could fast forward past the next few months. I lamented as he turned off the car. You should enjoy this time with your father and your human family, love. It will be over more quickly than you realize. He carried my bags to the door and said a quick hello to Charlie, leaving us shortly after to take his car home. The only way I could stand watching him go was with the knowledge that he would be in my bedroom in 20 minutes. Charlie seemed almost relieved to see me. I missed ya, kid. He gave me a huge hug after helping me bring my luggage upstairs. I missed you too, Dad. I gave him a smile, but he lingered in my room. What was this about? It was definitely worrisome. Charlie never hovered. He sat down in the rocking chair in the corner of my room and looked at me gravely. I was worried. Alice said you would be back tonight. But Billy said that you might already be different. He shook his head as if to banish the thought. I gulped. It had been close. If Carlisle hadn't made such a convincing argument about why it was important for me to at least finish out high school as a human, I very well may have come back changed. You don't have to worry about that yet, I said softly, not for a little while anyway. Charlie nodded, staring at his hands. I just worry about you, Bells. This whole world you're mixed up in, I don't want you to get caught up in the craziness of it and make a decision too hastily. Just promise me that you'll talk to me first. Before you become like him. I nodded. Of course, I had already made the decision, but this was the least I could do for Charlie. Yeah, Dad, I'll talk to you before it happens. Thanks, kid. I thought he would leave then, but he continued to fidget in my chair, foregoing all eye contact. Was there something else you wanted to talk about? I prompted. Well, he awkwardly cleared his throat. I know that you're a responsible girl, Bells. I don't know how it all works with what they are, but I want to make sure that you're being safe. I stared at him wide-eyed. Was he really trying to have a sex talk? I know you mean well, Dad, but Mom beat you to this years ago. It was my turn to stare at my hands. You don't have to worry about me being safe. Vampires don't they can't procreate. Charlie winced at the word, though he visibly relaxed. I'm sorry, this is as uncomfortable for me as it is for you. Carlisle is just so much more mature than you, Bells. I wasn't as stressed about you with Edward. Dad, please don't worry about me. I'm still the same Bella, regardless of who I'm with. I couldn't bring myself to say the word, dating. It was far too insignificant to describe my relationship with Carlisle. I'll try, Bells. He looked me in the eyes. You do seem happier. I'm not exactly thrilled about the whole situation. But I can see that he's good for you. I smiled brightly. I was happier than I had ever been. He is good for me, I'm good for him, too. We said goodnight after that. I rushed to open my window for Carlisle and began changing into a pair of silk pajama shorts and tank top that Alice had given me. They were dark green and fringed with black lace. That's really not fair. I looked up to see Carlisle already laying in my bed, examining me with a playful smirk. You are far too alluring, love. You're one to talk. I jumped on top of his waist, straddling him, and kissed him eagerly. I missed you. His hands gripped the back of my thighs and he kissed down and back up my neck. The past week had only intensified the hunger we felt for one another. The aching need. I missed you, too. He let his lips glide across my jawline, moaning softly as I slowly rolled my hips against him. I don't know how I'll make it through tomorrow. Don't remind me, I groaned. The prospect of a full day away from him was more than I could bear. We'll be okay, love. I know we will. I place my hands on either side of his face, his gold eyes seared into mine. You are my soul, Carlisle. And you are mine. His hands caressed up my legs to the side of my body. I pushed against him again and his eyes flashed with need, forever. All too soon, it was morning. I was struggling to prepare myself for the coming day. Carlisle stayed with me until the last possible moment, just as unwilling to part. I felt guilty about having kept him from the hospital for so long. But that feeling was vastly overshadowed by my need to have him close. I'll miss you, I promised, kissing him for the 100th time that morning. Isabella, he moaned into the kiss. A car honked impatiently from the driveway. Alice was waiting outside. She'd insisted on driving me to school today, or maybe Carlisle had asked her to. I'll see you soon, love. Sighing, he pulled me in for one final kiss before I begrudgingly went outside to meet Alice. She shook her head at me as I got into the car. I shrugged. We're going to be late, Bella, she chastised. You already missed a week. We need to keep up appearances. Sorry, I muttered. My stomach was in knots thinking about school. How was I supposed to sit in a classroom all day and pretend to be the same person I was a week ago? Did you say anything to anyone about why I was gone? I told the school you were on a trip to see your mom, but Jessica was being annoyingly persistent. She was sure you and Edward had run off together. She rolled her eyes. I told her that you broke up and that's why you had to get away to Jacksonville for a few days. I nodded, relieved that Alice had already covered so much for me. Did you say anything about where Edward's been? She shrugged. The truth that he's up in Denali temporarily to try and deal with your fallout. I felt a fresh spasm of guilt. I was genuinely sorry that I had to hurt Edward. Even though he wasn't the one, he'd still been a monumental part of my life. He wasn't my soulmate, but he was still family. I stared down at my hands, struggling to ask Alice what I desperately needed to know. Will he ever forgive me? It came out in a barely audible whisper. In time, Alice pursed her lips. It's going to take some convincing. He's going to try and fight for you. He thinks he can get you back. Quote. I gasped, you can't be serious. I told you, denial is a powerful thing. The school day was excruciating. Each hour went by more slowly than the last. At lunch, I unenthusiastically forced myself to take part in the conversation. Alice had already told everyone not to bring up Edward, saving me from having to rehash any details of our breakup. I could tell that Jessica was dying to ask. But Angela artfully changed the subject whenever the conversation seemed to be heading that way. Mike was especially pleased. His retriever qualities from last year seemed to resurface. Are you doing anything Friday night? His tone made his intentions abundantly clear. He'd walked me to the history class we both had after lunch, casually taking the seat next to me. Edward's seat. My heart twinged with guilt. I have plans with Alice. I shrugged, hoping he would take the hint. I wasn't quite sure how to turn him down without letting on that I was seeing someone else. His face fell slightly. What about Saturday? Mike, I didn't want to hurt him by making flimsy excuses. Mike had always been a good friend and didn't deserve that. I racked my brain for something to say. I'm not ready, okay. I'm not up for going out on dates or anything right now. It's all too fresh. Oh yeah, that makes sense. He looked thoughtful for a moment. As thoughtful as Mike ever looked, and his smile returned. What about in a few weeks? It's almost the Halloween dance and IW. Mr. Newton, eyes up front please. Mrs. Giles glared at us from the front of the room. Mike blushed, sorry. Quote. I was horrified. How many times did I need to turn him down before he stopped asking me out to dances? I felt a soft buzz in my jacket pocket and eagerly took out the phone Carlisle had given me a few days ago. My heart raced as I read his text message. I miss you, love. I'm counting down the seconds until I have you in my arms. Everything would be so much easier when I was changed. When we moved somewhere new and didn't have to hide our relationship. I spent the rest of the class daydreaming about how our lives would be after I was a vampire. When the day was finally over, I half ran to Alice's car. My body was vibrating with the anticipation of seeing Carlisle. 8 hours away had taken a toll. It seemed to physically hurt to be separated from him. Can you go any faster? I whined to Alice. It was a question I never thought I would ask a Cullen, but I was feeling almost desperate. I could tell that he was closer. My soul was slowly becoming whole as the distance between us dissipated. Alice rolled her eyes. You two are getting ridiculous. You love us. I do, she sighed. I waited so long for you to be together, but I didn't anticipate all of the side effects. What do you mean? She gave me a rueful smile. It's not that I'm not happy for you both, just the visions are a bit much. What visions? My mouth hung open in horror. Now that you and Carlisle have consummated your relationship, the visions of you in that way are in full force. I try to block it out, except being so closely linked to a new couple makes it really difficult. She feigned a shudder. I felt my cheeks burn and knew they were a shade of crimson. I had never thought of Alice seeing visions like that, even though it made sense she'd be able to see them. I shook my head. I'm so sorry, Alice. Do you always see people, or is it bad? I could hardly get the words out. I try not to see it, I really do, but when there's a lot of spontaneity with a couple like the kind present in a new relationship, it's harder to keep it all out. She pulled into the garage and laughed at my expression. Don't worry about it, Bella. It's unavoidable. I was left gaping at her as she danced out of the car and into the house. How she could be so lighthearted about this I didn't understand. I shook my head to try and stop imagining what she may have seen or heard and stepped out of the car. Cool arms greeted me right as I walked through the door. Carlisle pulled me into his chest, gazing at me with adoration. My heart fluttered as I locked my arms around his neck, standing on my toes to kiss him. Isabella, he moaned against my kiss, I've been dying all day without you. Me too, it's like half of me was missing. My hands moved to tangle in his hair and I forcefully pulled his lips to mine. How could I go without him again tomorrow? Being here with him now made me feel like I had been holding my breath all day, not realize. I was suffocating until I could inhale once again. Without breaking our kiss, he lifted me up, and I instinctively wrapped my legs around him. I felt a quick gust of air and then we were in his room. He closed the door and pushed me hard against it, grinding his hips into mine. I could feel that he was ready for me. I was thankful I'd decided to wear a skirt today. He had one hand moving up my thigh that was still tight around his waist. I felt the icy fingers on his other slide under my skirt and lightly pull at the thin hem of my panties. He gave them a sharp tug and discarded the material on the floor. "Hey, I like that pair," I teased breathlessly. "I'll get you another." He winked at me with a wicked smile and rubbed his hand over my core. I was unable to stop the moan that escaped my lips. He slid a stone finger into me, causing my back to arch against the door. I knew the others could hear us, but I couldn't bring myself to care or feel truly embarrassed. Right now, I needed Carlisle just as much as I ever had, maybe even more. My fingers untangled themselves from his hair to unbutton his shirt. To my utter dismay, he brought a hand up to stop me, pushing me harder against the door with his hips so I wouldn't fall. His hand took both of my wrists and moved them up above my head, securing them in place. I was a little surprised, but not displeased. In the week we had spent together, Carlisle had yet to show me this side of his desires. I wondered what else he still hadn't shown me. He kissed up and down my neck while ruthlessly pumping a finger inside me. I gasped out a loud moan when he added a second. I longed to touch him, to feel his hard grooves of his muscles flex under my hands. I attempted to pull my hands out of his grasp, only to feel his grip on them tighten. "Bella." He stopped kissing my neck to look me in the eye. "Do you trust me?" "Yes. Oh, I trust you." His lips collided with mine and I moaned into the kiss. He took advantage of my open mouth, sliding his tongue in hungrily, then shoved a third finger into my aching body. I screamed into the kiss as pleasure overtook me. He always knew exactly how to touch me. "Carlisle," I moaned, trying to catch my breath, "please." He raised an eyebrow mischievously. "Please what?" Please." Abruptly, he removed his fingers from me. I winced at the loss of contact. My yearning for him had become painful. "Tell me what you need." "Love." "Please Carlisle, please fuck me. I need you to fuck me." He inhaled sharply, his eyes visibly darkened, and he tightened his hold on the hands he still held above my head. I was a little surprised at myself. I had never referred to sex with him in such a way before. Everything between us physically was perfect. Every time we had made love in the Saint week was more incredible than I'd dreamed, but the desire in us right now was something different. Something primal. He didn't look away from my eyes as he undid his belt and pressed his lengthy marble flesh to the base of my entrance, pausing just before invading my core. "Say it again, love." "Please, Carlisle," I moaned as his eyes darkened again. "Please fuck me." A nearly animalistic growl escaped him and he thrust his entire length into me. I felt my body stretch around him and couldn't contain my blissful screams as he pulled out fully before roughly pushing back into me harder than he ever had before. His lips found mine and his free hand joined the other in keeping my wrists captive. "I love you," he moaned. His body was shaking. He increased the speed of his hips. "Isabella, you are absolutely exquisite." "Carlisle, I love you." There was more, so much more, that I wanted to say. I just couldn't stop moaning long enough to do so. My body was about to erupt. "Please, I need harder." He granted my request. His body connected to mine with a force that had me convulsing in euphoric joy. This, right here, this was heaven. "Carlisle," I screamed, reaching my peak. I felt his body spasm inside me with one last powerful motion. We stayed there for a moment, breathing each other in. After he let go of my hands, I collapsed onto his torso. Kissing the top of my head, he carried me over to the bed to gently put me down, then disappeared. I blinked and he was back, handing me a glass of water. I gulped it down greedily. He laughed softly and laid down next to me on the large bed, pulling me close to his body. I turned to rest my head on his chest and he kissed my head with a sigh. "I wasn't prepared for how hard the day was without you." He traced his fingers up my back. I almost couldn't take it. It was too much. It was bad for me, too. I don't know how I'm going to get through 9 months of this. I held him tighter. Maybe what? His eyebrow arched. I gulped. Maybe we shouldn't wait that long. I don't see why I have to finish the whole year. It's not like I won't finish high school at some point. It's ultimately your choice, love, but think of Charlie and all the other humans in your life. Most of them you'll never see again. Since Charlie knows, you can keep in contact with him, though you won't be able to be physically near him for a year or two while the bloodlust subsides. He kissed my head again. I don't want you to give up the last months with your family just to spend more time with me. You are my family. I've chosen the life I want, Carlisle. I just want to start living it. He tilted my head up, bright gold eyes searching mine intently. I've waited nearly 4 centuries to find you, love. Your happiness is all that matters to me. I won't stop you from making the decision. I only worry that you'll look back decades from now with regret for not spending more time as a human. I'm not saying it has to be today, I sighed. I just don't think I need to wait until graduation. Maybe after Christmas. That was still a few months away. I would have plenty of time to bond with my friends and I'd have one last human holiday with my parents. Yeah, after Christmas. Okay, it's a date. He pulled my head up further to kiss me. I love you, Isabella. I moaned into his kiss and swung my leg around his waist. His hands gripped my thighs, sliding up to grip my ass while I sat up on him. I grazed my teeth against his bottom lip, relishing in the sound of his moan. I love you, too. I took my time unbuttoning his shirt, reveling in the feeling of his sculpted chest as I ran my hands over it. He growled softly as he discarded my shirt to see the lacy black bra I was wearing underneath. I grinned at him and playfully kissed down his neck, his chest, then down his torso to his lower stomach. I was undoing the clasp of his pants when a knock on the door made me jump. Carlisle froze for a second before letting out a loud, startlingly animalistic snarl. What's going on? I tried to hide the panic from my voice. I heard the door swing open, but didn't turn around. Carlisle threw a blanket over my body and pulled me to his chest. I recognized the melodic laugh of the intruder instantly. Hello, Bella. I froze against Carlisle's chest. He pulled the blanket tighter around me. My cheeks were burning red thinking about the sight Edward just walked in on. Edward. What was he doing here? Wouldn't Alice have warned me that he was coming back already? Get out. Carlisle's voice was a barely audible growl. He lowered his head to whisper in my ear, breathe, love. I closed my eyes and inhaled his soothing scent of leather and fresh linen. I still did not dare look at the door. Why would Edward come into the room like that in the first place? Surely he could hear what we were doing. He had probably even seen me in Carlisle's head. Oh God, no. Had he purposely intruded to see me with my shirt off? Carlisle kissed the top of my head reassuringly and rubbed a hand up my back. I buried my head into his chest. Another snarl built in his throat and I knew that Edward was still there. I said get out. Another musical laugh came from across the room. I finally turned to see him casually leaning against the doorway. He looked the same as ever, but there was something different in his eyes. They were pitch black. I could tell he hadn't hunted since leaving for Denali. More striking, though, is what lay behind the hunger. He looked absolutely manic. No, Carlisle, I don't think I will. His eyes made contact with mine and I flinched. I had never feared Edward before. Not until this moment. Bella, can I have a word with you? I shook my head no and looked to Carlisle for help. I did want things to be okay with Edward. I hoped he would one day even be my friend. That clearly wasn't possible, yet not with him looking at me like that. When our eyes met I could clearly see the mix of emotions raging within him. There was pain, jealousy, and even a hint of obsession. I couldn't get to a healthy place with Edward when he was like this. Bella, please, you owe me a conversation at Lee. She owes you nothing. Carlisle cut him off with a harsh growl. Have you no sense of boundaries? Clearly she's mortified that you would walk in while we were indisposed. It's disgraceful. I heard a low rumbling and flinched when I recognized Edward's growl. No, Carlisle, what's disgraceful is you risking her life to use her body. You are taking advantage of her. I looked at him in shock. He could read Carlisle's mind. He could clearly see all of the love we shared, that we were soulmates. How could he even imply otherwise? Carlisle's eyes darkened and I could feel his anger growing. I'd never seen him so close to losing control before. This could be bad. You know I am not taking advantage of her. You can see how pure our bond is. There is nothing even remotely dishonest in our relationship. Edward rolled his eyes, turning his attention to me. Bella, let's talk. No, I whispered, please get out. He's taking advantage of you, Bella. Your mind doesn't realize it, your human hormones are the reason for all of this. The effect we have on humans is powerful, overwhelming. I don't blame you for succumbing to him. It's only human. He took a step forward. Carlisle moved to stand protectively in front of me. His body crouched infinitesimally. The muscles on his chest and arms rippled with strength. If that were the case, then why didn't she feel this way about you? The challenge in his voice was palpable. I had never heard him say anything so antagonistic. It worried me a little. I didn't want his relationship with Edward to be damaged beyond repair. I don't want to fight, Carlisle. Edward took a step back to the doorway. I just need to talk to her. Carlisle didn't move. She said no. Bella. Edward looked at me, pleading with his eyes. No, Edward. I felt a fresh wave of guilt. I did owe him a conversation, just not like this. Not after he'd bombarded us. Not now. Maybe eventually we can talk, but not now. Edward stared at me for a long moment. All right, I can wait. I will wait as long as it takes for you to see that I am your soulmate. I love you, Bella. Carlisle snarled as Edward disappeared. I could see that it was taking a great deal of effort for him not to go after his oldest companion. His muscles were visible tense as he kept himself still. Carlisle, are you okay? He didn't respond or even turn to look at me. I got up from the bed and slowly walked behind him. Standing on my toes, I kissed the back of his neck, ran my hands down his arms, then placed my head in between his shoulder blades. His body relaxed under my touch and I knew he was back in control. I'm sorry, love. I don't know what came over me. His voice was stiff and plagued with remorse. In one swift motion, he turned to lift me into his arms. Then brought us back to the bed. I'm sorry if I frightened you. I looked into his deep honey eyes, stunned by the amount of guilt I saw there. Did he really think I was afraid of him? You didn't frighten me. Not at all. If anything, I was afraid for you, not of you. You're always so in control. I was just a little worried seeing you lose that. Oh, Bella, he kissed my cheek, pulling me closer. Don't worry about me like that. I have centuries of practice in controlling my temper. Edward caught me off guard as all. I cannot believe he would invade our privacy like that. He would have fully known what was happening and what he would see. It's disgusting. Why didn't Alice warn us he was coming back today? She told me it was a possibility. That he's extremely unstable right now and his decisions are changing at an alarming rate. If she wasn't out hunting with Jasper, she probably would have seen that and warned us. I nodded, still shaken by the whole encounter. Are you all right, love? I know you don't have any lingering feelings, but he was your first love of sorts. I don't want to stop you from talking to him if that's what you want. You're not. I do not want to talk to him yet. The look in his eyes, I couldn't suppress a shiver. I do owe him a conversation at some point though. It's my fault that he's hurting. Carlisle shook his head. Bella, love, no. I won't object to you having a talk with him if that's what you actually want, but you shouldn't do it because you feel you owe him anything. You don't, not even a conversation. He knew for quit a while that what you had together wasn't true love. He chose to ignore it and gave in to his unhealthy impulses. Sighing, I closed my eyes and rested my head on his chest. He was right. I knew he was. So why couldn't I shake the guilt I was feeling? Maybe the guilt wasn't over ending our relationship. Maybe the guilt was stemming from the fact that in spite of his recent behavior, my love for Edward as a family member was strong. I genuinely wanted him to be happy. I had found complete bliss in Carlisle. Edward deserved the same in someone else. I couldn't imagine how it felt for him to be on the other side of it. I wanted badly to be there for him, to be his friend. I knew that wouldn't be possible for a while, though. I also knew that my guilt was affecting Carlisle. Sure, he was secure in my love. But he didn't deserve to watch me hurting over Edward. Carlisle. I opened my eyes to see his adoring gaze already upon me. Yes, I love you. I pulled his head down so I could kiss him. It was a greedy kiss. Full of need. His tongue grazed across my bottom lip and I let out a low moan. My hands tangled in his hair as he turned us so that I was once again straddling him. Not quite as much as I love you. He had one hand firmly on my waist and the other moved to grasp my hair, pulling my head to the side so he could kiss my neck. What was it you were about to do? Before we were so rudely interrupted. I raked my hands down his chest to the half-undone clasp of his pants, giving him a teasing smile as I finished the job and lightly kissed his abdomen. I pulled them down along with his briefs, smiling wryly when I saw how hard he already was for me. I kissed his stomach again, hesitating slightly. I hadn't had him like this since that first morning in my bedroom when we'd been cut short. This time, I wrapped my hand around the bottom half of his long length, finding a steady rhythm before swirling my tongue around the tip. His sharp inhale told me I was doing this right, giving me more confidence as I took him as far into my mouth as I could. I reveled in the moans coming from the gorgeous man beneath me as I sucked and licked his marble flesh. I loved that I could have this effect on him. Carlisle's breath hitched and he raised his hips slightly. I increased the speed I was moving my head, my mouth, and sucked on him harder. I tried to take him even further into my throat and he cried out. "Bella, you don't have to Christ. Bella." He exploded into my mouth. I quickly swallowed the substance. Jessica had once told me that it would taste somewhat salty. But Carlisle's was somehow sweet, no doubt a product of being an immortal. I kissed my way back up his stomach, his chest, then he put his hands on either side of my face and pulled me in for a deep kiss. That was absolutely remarkable. "Love," he spun us around so he was laying over me. "Now it's my turn to taste you." We spent the rest of the afternoon and evening like that. Our physical need for each other taking over, allowing us to bask in pure happiness for a few hours. Ignoring all thoughts of Edward, my change, and what troubles tomorrow would bring. The next morning, I questioned Alice about Edward's return while we drove to school. "I really am sorry. He was going to wait and confront you at school. I really thought we had more time until he got to the house and heard you and Carlisle together." She trailed off with a shrug. It was awful," I groaned. "You should have seen Carlisle." I couldn't believe it. He was actually ready to fight Edward. Our strongest instincts kick in when there is a threat to our mate. Even with all of Carlisle's control, even with his love for Edward, he will not hesitate to do everything and anything he can to defend you. I looked out the window and considered this. It filled me with dread. Carlisle was already anxious enough that Edward was returning to school today. Saying goodbye this morning had been absolutely agonizing. If Edward tried anything today, I wasn't sure how Carlisle would react. I hated that I was causing such a rift between them. "What can I do, Alice? How can I make this better?" She shrugged again. "There's really nothing you can do. Bella, just try not to let Edward get to you. It will take time, but eventually everything will be right and everyone will be happy." She looked at my doubtful eyes and added, "I promise." I let out another groan when we pulled into the parking lot. Edward was already there, leaning against his car, and holding a bouquet of roses. He smiled at me as I got out of Alice's car. He couldn't be serious. Unless he had gone deaf, there was no way he could think I wasn't completely in love with Carlisle after last night. He walked over to me and got down on one knee. "What the hell are you doing, Edward?" I crossed my arms defensively. "Bella, please give me a chance to talk." He held the bouquet up. "I love you. I know that you love me too. We can find our way back to each other." A small crowd of onlookers had stopped to watch us, including Mike and Jessica. Why did he have to do this here of all places? I made sure to lower my voice enough that nobody would hear me. "Edward," I sighed. "No. Just no. You're right that I love you, but I am not in love with you. At all. I found my soulmate and I'm happy. Why can't you accept that? Your human body is ruled by your hormones, Bella. I don't fault you for thinking your lust for him is the same thing as love. I just can't believe he let things get this far. He is obviously using your body to get what he wants. Stop, Edward. Just stop." I shook my head, feeling the anger at his words swell within my chest. What I feel for him, what we have together, is infinitely more extraordinary than anything that existed in our relationship. I'm more in love with him than I ever could have been with you. We're perfect. Our minds and bodies just fit. I can't even begin to explain how deep our bond goes, but you need to accept it. Once I'm changed, you'll probably hear my thoughts too, and it will be easier on you if you stop fighting this now." Edward lowered the flowers. The expression in his eyes made me take a step back. I was thankful that the crowd had grown a bit. I didn't think he would do anything to expose himself. "He's changing you. I nodded, yes. After Christmas. Then I'll have to speed up my time frame. He looked past me, to the crowd of students gathered a few cars back, and narrowed his eyes. I'm not going to give up, Bella. Sooner or later you'll figure out that I'm the one you should be with. I'll make you see it. I took another step back. I have to get to class. I'll walk you. Before I could respond, he came toward me and reached for my bag that was still laying in the front seat of Alice's car. He discarded the roses onto the seat and slung the bag over his shoulder. We still have almost every class together. I was silent while he walked me and we sat in our usual seats. He tried a few times to get me to talk, but thankfully the bell rang for class to start before he could get a rise out of me. I took out my phone, desperately wanting to talk to Carlisle. I hope your day is going better than mine. Almost instantly after I pressed send, he responded. What happened? Edward is being persistent. I don't know how to get him to stop. And he's in most of my classes. I'm so sorry. Love. I wish I could be there. I wish I could be with you. Impossibly, my morning classes went by even slower than they had yesterday. Edward walked with me to ACH class and dutifully sat beside me despite my protests. Carlisle didn't ever respond to my last text. I tried not to feel anxious. He was probably just busy with work. A few minutes into the last class before lunch, Angela, who was an office aide during this period, walked in and gave the teacher a note. In the corner of my eye, I saw Edward clench his fists. Miss Swan, Mr. Banner called from the front of the class. You're needed in the office. Okay. I gathered my things and hurried to meet Angela at the door. I could feel Edward's eyes following me as we left. Hopefully whatever this was would let me avoid him through lunch. What's going on? I questioned Angela as soon as we left the classroom. You don't know. She looked at me incredulously. Dr. Cullen said you applied for a medical work study at the hospital months ago. He told Ms. Cope that you were supposed to start this week, but he forgot to turn in all the paperwork. I tried to hide the surprise and joy from my face. Oh yeah, I forgot he was coming in for it today. You're so lucky. I didn't even know you wanted to go into medicine. I shrugged as we entered the main office. It was so strange to see Carlisle, the definition of beauty, sitting in the drabby chair across from Ms. Cope's desk. I couldn't stop a smile from spreading across my face when I saw him. Hello Miss Swan, please take a seat. Ms. Cope gestured to the chair next to Carlisle. I sat down and had to stop myself from automatically reaching for Carlisle's hand. He winked at me discreetly. Ms. Cope was busy organizing papers to a folder and rambling about credit hours, but I thought I saw Angela's eyes widen slightly. Had she seen my hand move toward him? I could make up an excuse about losing my balance and reaching for him to steady myself. Would she buy that? It's a good thing you already have enough credits to graduate, Miss Swan. Otherwise, this schedule wouldn't be. Wait, what? I cut her off, distracted. I have enough credits to graduate. Ms. Cope pursed her lips. Yes, well, after you finish this semester's gym and math courses you do. I am going to move those classes to be in your morning block and we'll keep chemistry for the third period. After that, you'll be free to leave campus and go to the hospital for your internship. Does that mean I can graduate at the end of term then? I was ed to go through with my transformation during winter break no matter what, but getting to celebrate my graduation even untraditionally would mean so much to Charlie and Renee. Don't you want to graduate with your classmates? You won't be able to walk the stage in June if you graduate in December. No, Ms. Cope, I'd rather graduate early and get a jump start on college and everything. I grinned at her, unable to hide my excitement. Seemingly appeased with my reasoning, Ms. Cope went over everything I would need to do in order to graduate early and we finalized my schedule. I couldn't believe it. Only 3 months and I would be done with high school, and the time I had to spend away from Carlisle until then was cut in half. When we left the office, Carlisle scooped me up into a hug. His bright gold eyes were beaming. It took everything I had not to kiss him right there. We hastily separated and walked to the parking lot. The second we were behind the dark windows of his car, his lips were on mine. After a moment, he broke the kiss. I groaned in protest until I saw how intently he was looking at me. You're sure this is what you want? It's only 6 months longer for you to graduate with your friends and take part in the ceremony. Yes, it's absolutely what I want. I'm too ready to start our eternity together. So am I, love. You have no idea. His lips found the hollow at the base of my neck. He drew them slowly up to my jaw and back down again. My hands wove into his hair. I had to focus to keep my breathing steady. Not that I don't love this, but don't we have to get to the hospital? He kissed behind my ear, laughing amorously when my pulse went wild. Actually, we don't. On the hospital paperwork you don't start until tomorrow, and I took the rest of today off. His hands found their way under my shirt. I moaned as his cold fingers slid up my back. I needed him. Let's go home then. Home. He agreed. As the next few weeks passed, I was lost in a constant haze of frenzied excitement. The only time I didn't get to spend with Carlisle was the few hours of school in the mornings and the few night and weekend hours that he was on call for the hospital. Those were the hardest to get through. But it allowed me time to spend some time with the rest of the Cullens and my human friends. I also made sure to have dinner with Charlie every other night. He wasn't thrilled when he realized why I had decided to graduate early. Every few days he had a new argument to try and change my decision, but I was sure some part of him realized it was a lost cause. Carlisle had become a regular fixture around the house, and Charlie couldn't deny the absolute devotion he saw him dote upon me. He had even begrudgingly admitted that he was happy for me, even though that didn't at all change his opinion on me becoming a vampire. I just don't get it, Bells, he said between mouthfuls of fish fry. Why can't you wait another year or two? Maybe go to college first. I sighed, mentally preparing the list of reasons I had repeated to him a dozen times. Because Dad, I don't want to wait. I want to live the life I've chosen. I know this is what I was meant to be. I'll still go to college and everything at some point multiple times, but when I do that I don't want to have to hide my relationship or continually lie to my friends. Spending time with Angela lately had been a minefield. Most of my human friends weren't observant enough to notice, but Angela always saw how distant I was in the mornings at school compared to when I left for my internship. She saw the way my eyes lit up when I got a random text or when I talked about working with Carlisle at the hospital. During our last weekend study session while Carlisle was at work, she even pointed out how distracted and slightly sad I seemed. I'd shrugged it off, claiming I was tired. Most of my friends still thought I was still getting over Edward, but I knew Angela didn't buy that excuse. She saw how thoroughly I avoided him at school. I wouldn't ever tell Charlie, but Edward was another reason I wanted to change soon. I was anxious for him to accept that I was not going to change my mind. Ever. He hadn't approached Carlisle and I together since that first night he was back, but he had rearranged his classes to have the same morning schedule as me. And, when Carlisle was on call, he was always around. He hadn't been as brash as the first day. Alice could tell he was planning something though, she just couldn't see the details of what it was. She saw enough to know he was determined to keep me human as well as get me back. But for now, his only concrete plan seemed to be to annoy me at every possible moment. What about your mom? Charlie knew this was the hardest thing for me to get past. We both knew it wouldn't end well for me to tell Renee about my otherworldly family or my decision to join them. That meant, after she visited for Christmas, I would likely never be able to see her face to face again. We'll still talk on the phone. I tried to hide the sorrow in my voice. What about 10 years from now, Bells? Hell, what about 5 years from now? How will you explain never visiting her or even sending pictures? You say you don't want to lie about your relationship, but you'll do that for the rest of her life, and it will really hurt her. My voice was quiet when I answered, I don't know. But I'll figure it out. We finished our dinner in silence. Charlie was right, of course, if I didn't figure out a better way to deal with Renee, it would only hurt us both. I didn't want that to happen, but I couldn't see a way around it. I went upstairs to finish my homework while I waited for Carlisle to be off work. It was difficult to focus on calculus when I was stressed about Renee. I had to figure out something to tell her aside from my college excuse. I closed my book in frustration after a few minutes. It was only Friday, so I had a few days before it was due. I'd wait until I studied with Angela on Sunday to finish it. My phone buzzed and my heart pounded eagerly at the anticipation of a message from Carlisle. I looked down at the screen to feel the smile on my face fall flat. I'm stuck here for at least another 2 hours. Maybe longer. I'm sorry, love. I forced myself to smile at his commitment to the hospital as I replied. I knew. I had already cut into a large amount of the time he dedicated to his work. I'd even heard the nurses talk about how much he'd cut back on his hours. I didn't want him to feel guilty for the time he spent fulfilling his passion. No worries. We have all day tomorrow. I looked around my bedroom and sighed. It always felt smaller without him here. If I was waiting in his room, at least I would be able to smell his scent clearly on the sheets while I slept. Is it okay if I go to the house? I don't feel like staying here tonight. Of course. It's your home too, love. Grinning, I grabbed my keys and hurried down to my truck. The house was empty when I arrived. Everyone must be out hunting. I breathed a sigh of relief. I was anxious to get to Carlisle's room as fast as possible. Inspiration had me to me on the drive and I didn't want to be interrupted. I locked Carlisle's door, just in case, and went to his closet. I found a light blue button-up shirt and quickly took off my jeans and sweater. I put his button-up on, but left it hanging open so my black bra and panty combination was still visible. Looking in the mirror, I thought Alice would be proud of the contrasting colors. I had taken to wearing the lingerie she'd bought for me almost every day, knowing how much it excited Carlisle. Heart pounding, I took my phone out and started snapping pictures of myself posing in Carlisle's shirt. When I was finally satisfied with one, I typed out the caption, "Hope you don't mind if I borrow this," and sent it with trembling fingers. I collapsed onto the bed and nervously waited for a response. My phone buzzed not 2 minutes later. Actually, I do mind. It should be a crime to be so alluring. With a flood of lust brought on by his words to motivate me, I slipped off his shirt, then opened the camera once again. I took a picture that showed my fingers just inside of my panties and made it clear I wasn't wearing the shirt any longer. Guess I'll just take it off then. I'm so ready Are you? I was alight with anticipation as I hit send. Good. I want you dripping for me when I get there, love. His words had me instantly roaming my body, desperately wishing it was his hand gliding over my breasts. I removed my bra and took another photo for him. This one showed enough that a caption felt unnecessary. I moved my hand down to my panties and had just begun rubbing my sensitive nub when his next text came. "Show me more, please." Elated, I removed my panties and took a few photos while completely naked. None of them felt quite right. Mustering up all of the courage I had left, I pressed the record button instead. I started touching myself, but more slowly than before. I imagined Carlisle's eyes on me as I did it. I took turns bringing my fingers to each of my nipples and tugged on them the way I knew he liked, to the way that made a dark glint appear in his eyes whenever he did it, then trailed my fingers down to my pussy. It was already soaking with desire and my clit throbbed with need. Pretending it was his fingers on me, I gently slid one into my folds and let out a moan. "Carlisle." I closed my eyes, forgetting the camera, and continued moving in and out of my heated core. I turned my head to smell his scent on the pillowcase and withdrew my fingers to rub my aching clit. It was all I needed to bring myself over the edge. I stopped recording and took a minute to catch my breath before sending the video. A minute passed, then 2, then 5 with no response. I was scared that he hadn't liked the video, or maybe he thought it was crass. I buried my head into his pillow with deep chagrin. My phone buzzed a few moments later and I nearly jumped. "You're positively killing me, love. How am I supposed to focus on paperwork knowing my luscious ism? LLA is creating such a delightfully promiscuous scene in my very bed. It's absolute torture." I could feel myself grinning from ear to ear as I grabbed his shirt. I pulled it on over my naked body, leaving the buttons undone. Getting comfortable in his bed, I took one last picture. "Get your work done. I'll be here waiting for you. Try to get some rest, love. I'm going to devour every inch of your delectable body when I'm home." I fell asleep happily breathing in his scent from the pillowcase. I don't know how long I was out. It could have been hours or minutes, I had no way of knowing. It was pitch black outside. The only light came from the slightly open bedroom door. The one I'd locked. I sat up quickly, my hands searching the sides of the large bed for Carlisle. Wouldn't he have woken me up when he got home? I was so used to waking up in his cool embrace that my entire being felt wrong without it. "It's okay, Bella, it's just me." I froze. The voice was wrong. It wasn't Carlisle's deeply smooth, comforting voice. It was too sweet, too melodic. I pulled the open sides of Carlisle's shirt around my body and turned to see Edward sitting on a stack of books by the closet. He was holding my phone. I knew from the heavy breaths coming from it that he was watching the video. "What the hell are you doing here, Edward? Give me back my phone." A deep wave of anger flared through me. What was he doing? This wasn't okay. He ignored my question, eyes fixed on the video. He flinched when I moaned Carlisle's name. "You know," his voice was calm, but I could hear the emotion in it. "I could make you feel this way." I tried to hold back a laugh, knowing it would only hurt him, but couldn't fully contain it. The idea was too absurd. He'd never even kissed me with an ounce of the passion that Carlisle did. "No, Edward, you couldn't. And turn that off, it wasn't made for you." The video ended and he tossed the phone over to me. He didn't look at me, but stared at the floor, appearing to be in deep thought. I adjusted the shirt so I was holding it closed with one hand and pulled a blanket over my legs. I should have tried to, before. His eyes darted up to meet mine and I tightened my grip on Carlisle's shirt. "I could show you if you'd only give me a chance. If you let me, I'll make you feel better than he ever has." "No, absolutely not." I shook my head in disbelief. "Please get out. You shouldn't have come in here in the first place. You had no right to look at my phone." He stood up, but didn't move to leave. I held my breath and wondered if I could somehow call Carlisle without him noticing. In a flash, he moved forward, so that he was leaning on the edge of the bed. My heart sped up in fear. I'd never been so frightened of him before. I had every right. "You belong to me, Bella. I'm your soulmate, not him. Please go, Edward. You're scaring me." He started leaning forward, holding a hand out to me. "What's going on here?" I felt my body breathe again as relief washed over me. Even my tight grip on the shirt loosened slightly. Carlisle was standing in the doorway, eyeing Edward with intense animosity. Edward stood up, stepping away from the bed as he did so, and turned to face Carlisle. "I was checking on Bella. It sounded like she was having a nightmare and—" "Liar," I whispered, knowing they both could hear. "He broke the lock on your door and was going through my phone while I was asleep." Carlisle's eyes visibly darkened. He let out a vicious growl and crouched. Edward took another step away from me. "Get out." Edward was a blur as he left. Carlisle slammed the door behind him and moved a bookcase in front of it. We both knew it wouldn't actually keep Edward out, but it seemed to make him feel better. He took a few deep breaths before turning to me. "Are you okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, I'm a little shocked. I've never really been afraid of him before. I don't know how he thinks he still has any chance with me." Carlisle was at my side in an instant. His cool fingers moved up and down my back in a comforting motion. I leaned into him and let my body fully relax. "This has really gotten out of hand." His voice was strained. I could tell he was struggling to maintain his self-control. "You said he was looking at your phone." "Yes. I woke up and saw him watching the video I took for you." A deep, rumbling growl escaped Carlisle's. "That's it. He has to get out of the house. Tonight. No, he's family. Carlisle and Alice can see that things will work out eventually." I trailed off, wondering just how long it would take for that to happen. "I know. She keeps telling me to be patient, but this is not okay. He cannot keep doing things like this." Carlisle shook his head. "If he crosses a line even one more time, he's out. I don't care what Alice says." "Okay, let's not worry about it now." I put my hands on either side of his face, knowing it would calm him. "I missed you." His eyes instantly softened. I could almost feel as he pushed away his anger until the only thing that remained was him and me. We would deal with the rest later, together. "I missed you, love." He smirked as he looked me over. "Didn't I say that I minded if you wore that shirt? What are you going to do about it?" A sharp gleam of desire came into his eyes at my challenge. The hand he had on my back swiftly moved up to tightly grip my hair. He carefully pulled my head to the side and brought his mouth to my neck, playfully grazing his teeth over my jugular. His other hand spread my legs apart and he slid an icy finger into my opening without warning. Carlisle, oh God. His sudden onslaught had my head swimming. He kissed a path from the base of my neck to my ear and whispered, "I'm going to devour you, Isabella, as promised." He added a second finger and pumped in and out of me with an unrelenting force. I went to run my hands down his chest, but releasing my hair he caught them both in his palm and pinned them above my head. My moans turned to screams as he roughly moved his thumb over my clit, never breaking pace, and added a third finger. Carlisle. That's it, love, I want you screaming my name as you come for me. Oh, Carlisle. Yes, Carlisle. My body shook violently at the powerful release, but he didn't stop. His lips were already trailing down to my soaking core. His mouth closed over my swollen clit and sucked hard. Carlisle. Fuck. Quote. Everything bit of me felt like it was on fire, burning with an unyielding need for him. I was practically convulsing. I could barely breathe. He released my tender flesh and licked down my folds, lapping up the immense wetness that could only be caused by him. The speed at which he moved his tongue, and the force of his hand resting once again on my sensitive nub, made me lose all control. All of my senses were gone. The only thing I could feel, or see, or even think of was Carlisle. Every touch, every slight movement, had me screaming in bliss. Carlisle. He let me catch my breath this time, after I finished, but not for long. When I finally had some semblance of control, I looked to see him undressing, and marveled at the perfection of his naked body. Part of me wasn't sure if I could handle more tonight, but one look at the golden Adonis in front of me had the fire in my soul yearning for his body. For more, it was impossible to resist. I sat up, gingerly peeling off his now sweat-soaked shirt from my own body. He bent down to give me a deep, passionate kiss. Turn over. I eagerly got on my hands and knees. He knew I loved this position almost more than he did. I felt him press against my opening. He paused to kiss my back before firmly pushing into me. I let out a loud moan at his entrance and felt my body pulsate wildly around him. His low moans were almost a growl. He grabbed my hips firmly and slammed his body into mine at an unwavering pace. I was beside myself with pleasure. This, I was certain, was the ultimate form of bliss. Alice said it would only get better when I became a vampire, but I highly doubted that was possible. Yes, yes. Oh, God. I felt Carlisle release one of my hips and move his hand up my back to grasp my hair. He pulled my head back slightly and practically begged in a coarse voice, "Say my name, love, please." Carlisle. 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 His speed increased until he entered me in one final, harsh motion. My entire body was shaking in ecstasy. I continued moaning his name while I rode it out. Isabella. He wrapped his cool, stone arms around me tightly. I love you. I love you, too. I slept fitfully that night. My dreams were filled with unwanted visions, nightmares. There were flashes of Carlisle and Edward fighting, of Edward's hand reaching toward me, or of strange chocolat. Brown eyes flecked with gold staring at me. The last one unsettled me the most. The eyes were so like mine, so familiar, and yet entirely alien. When I jumped up gasping for air, after a particularly brutal scene of Edward snapping Carlisle's neck, I found him already holding a glass of water out for me. Sunrise was peeking through the windows, illuminating the bright gold of his eyes. Were the eyes in the dream mine? Was my subconscious attempting to imagine my eyes with the same ethereal gold he had? I willed the images away as I gulped down the water. Are you okay, love? You've been thrashing about all night. Carlisle's eyes were full of concern. Yeah, just some stress dreams. His cool, stone arms slid around me and I leaned back into his chest. I hadn't realized that I was drenched. Head completely covered in sweat until now. My skin felt clammy. I couldn't remember ever having night sweats before. I tried to wake you a few times, but you were dead to the world. He kissed my neck. I think you have a slight fever as well. Are you feeling ill? I shook my head. No, I feel okay. A wave of nausea hit me so suddenly, I had to jump off of the bed and run to the small bathroom connected to Carlisle's room. He was beside me in an instant, holding my hair back, and running a hand over my back in soothing circles. I had a second of feeling self-conscious that he was seeing me in this state. Then the next wave of nausea hit. When the contents of my stomach seemed to have been entirely emptied, he lifted me into his arms, and carried me back to the large bed. He pulled the comforter over me and brought me another glass of water. He pressed a cool hand to my forehead. He frowned. I'd like to run a couple tests if you don't mind, love. It's possible you pick up a bug at the hospital, and since it is nearly flu season, I'd rather get a diagnosis sooner than later. I groaned, I really don't want to go into the hospital right now. It's supposed to be our day of just being alone together. Plus, I'm already feeling better. Maybe I just ate something bad. Though I said the words mostly to appease him, I realized that I was already feeling better. My skin was feeling less clammy and my stomach even growled. I gulped down the new glass of water he'd brought. All the same, love, he gave me a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I'll feel much better knowing you're okay. I can get a few samples from you here and run them to the hospital myself. I'll only be gone an hour. Even with me grumbling that I was fine, Carlisle took some sample swabs from my nose and throat. He refused to let me lift a finger, bringing me a breakfast of eggs, oatmeal, and bacon in bed. I ate it eagerly and gulped down another glass of water before he left, then fell back into a deep sleep. This time, my dreams were peaceful, even serene. I dreamt I was laying on the beach, watching the tide slowly roll in, with my skin glistening in the soft light of the sunset. A hand, too small to be Carlisle's, grabbed my shoulder. I was not frightened by the unknown presence. I smiled, turning my head to look in the stranger's direction, but the dream shifted. As now sitting in a field of wildflowers, making a small crown out of daisies. A melodic, high-pitched, humming came from behind me. My vision whirled again and I was looking into a mirror, but I wasn't myself. My stomach was large, swollen, white, marble arms wrapped around me from behind. Carlisle smiled down at the lump. I jumped awake and ran for the toilet again. Maybe I do have the flu. When I finally seemed to be done, I sluggishly pulled myself up to brush my teeth. Somehow, I was already feeling better. Right as I was spitting out my mouthwash, I felt a sharp twinge inside my stomach. It didn't quite feel like a cramp. It was more like my muscles were contracting. Or something was moving. I put my hand on my stomach and yelled as the sharp twinge went through me again, this time more painfully. It definitely felt like something was moving. I caught my reflection in the large bathroom mirror and was struck at the image of me standing with my hand on my stomach. No way. No. Absolutely no way in hell. I thought of my dream of Carlisle wrapping his arms around the large bulge and fainted. Bella. Cold fingers were on my head, my neck, checking my pulse. Bella. What happened? With a little force, I opened my eyes and saw Carlisle hovering over me. His eyes were full of panic. I was still laying on the bathroom floor. I tried to mentally tabulate the days, the weeks that had passed since my last period, but came up short. I'd been living in such a blur of happiness. Carlisle, my voice was hoarse, I struggled to get the question out. Oh, Bella, what happened? He lifted me up slightly to kiss my forehead. I think I need to take you in, love. I tested you for multiple strains of influenza, bronchitis, and did full cultures with everything coming up negative. I was thinking it may be food poisoning or a stomach bug, but finding you unconscious points to something much more serious. Bella, I do. What day is it? I cut him off with a whisper. He looked at me incredulously. Saturday. No, what's the date? It's the 14th. No, it can't be. It's not possible. If today was November 14th, then that meant my last cycle was over 6 weeks ago. No. Why? What is it? As if in answer to him, the painful twinge returned. I let out a harsh gasp and my hands went over my stomach. How? This isn't supposed to happen. I felt tears falling down my cheeks. Whether in fearful anxiety or pure bewilderment, I didn't know. Bella, where does it hurt? Please talk to me, love. Unable to speak, I grabbed his hand and pulled it over my stomach. His eyes narrowed, then widened in horror as there was, not a twinge, but a distinct kick. He gasped, then used both hands to gently push on various areas of my lower abdomen. Carlisle, it's not possible. Right. His bright gold eyes met mine. It's not supposed to be, it's assumed not to be, but the only true relations I know of between vampires humans exist between vampire females and mortal males. Maybe if it's reversed, with a woman capable of ovulating. There was another sharp kick and he flinched. Carlisle, my voice broke. I don't know how to, I didn't ever think this would happen. Leaving one hand on my stomach, he brought another under my shoulders, and lifted my torso up so he could pull me against his chest. I buried my head in his neck, trying to soothe myself with his comforting scent. He kissed my forehead. I'm so sorry, Bella. His voice was a whisper against my ear. I promise I'll make this right. I'll bring some equipment home and we'll get it out of you as soon as pos. No. I sat up and pulled away from him at once, horror-struck. Carlisle, no. I'm not going to know. I thought of my dreams. The small hand on my shoulder. The melodic harmony in the meadow, the image of me fully pregnant and happy. I protectively wrapped both my arms around my stomach. I had never, ever thought I wanted to have a child. But, now that it was here, I could see it clearly. I could see its small hands wrapped around my finger, singing it to sleep while sitting on the old rocking chair that was in my room at Charlie's. And I could even see Carlisle laughing while spinning a little blonde-haired bundle around in his arms. His voice was calm, the steady voice of a practiced doctor. Bella, I have no idea what it is. A half-human, half-vampire. It could be a monster. It could kill you. What it is a baby, Carlisle. Our baby. Bella, love. His calm mask slipped. I saw the terror, the anxiety running through his gold eyes. I didn't think if that was something you wanted, something you felt you needed. I could see the pain, the fear, of his half-question. Carlisle, it wasn't. I didn't ever consider or have any type of yearning of being a mother. The word felt foreign on my tongue, but now that I'm pregnant, he whispered. Yes, now that I'm pregnant with our baby I can see it, Carlisle. I can feel it. It's not a monster, it's a child. It will be one of a kind, unique, but it will be ours. It already is ours. He looked into my eyes for a long moment. Then down to my arms still wrapped around my stomach. Okay. He slowly, hesitantly, reached his hand back out. I unwrapped mine enough for him to slide his hand under them and felt another kick. I promise you, love. I will do everything I can to ensure you get through this okay. Another kick. That you both do. Tears flowed freely down my cheeks again, only this time they weren't from fear, though I still had plenty of it, but from happiness. I knew that, no matter what happened, with Carlisle by my side I would be okay. Our baby would be okay. We would be a family. Bella. Carlisle. Alice appeared in the doorway of the small bathroom. Oh my God. You're alive. What? Of course we're alive. I gingerly wiped my eyes with one hand, the other was still holding Carlisle's over my stomach. I was out hunting when you both completely disappeared. Both of your futures all gone. I can't see them. I thought it meant you died. I caught Carlisle's eyes. Was this because of our baby? Could it be possible that Alice wasn't able to see it? Alice, the calm had returned to Carlisle's voice, have you ever been able to view anything else? Any of the shapeshifters or werewolves that walk the earth? Quote, no. Why would I ever have needed to, though? She looked at our hands then, at the tear-soaked smile on my face, at Carlisle's tentative one, what's going on? I spent the next few hours being poked and prodded while Carlisle ran every test imaginable. He'd brought some equipment from the hospital home and was doing everything he could to find out more about the baby. I couldn't be further along than 6 or 7 weeks, but apparently a half-vampire baby grew much faster than a normal human one. If this were a normal pregnancy, I'd place you somewhere around the 14th week. But the movement of it is closer to the 18th. This rate of growth is unprecedented. It seems as if it's grown even since the first scan. What does that mean for her? Esme was holding my right hand. I honestly don't know. Carlisle's brow furrowed. I'll have to track exactly what changes over the next few days to establish a timeline, but I wouldn't be surprised if by next week you appeared to be over 20 weeks, love. Alice's grip tightened around my left hand. I hate being so blind. I can't see a single thing about it. Carlisle adjusted the transducer on my stomach. The sac appears to be made of our skin. I doubt I'd even be able to see through it with a full X-ray. But, as it's half-human, I wonder if. He tapped a button on the monitor and the room filled with a soft whoosh. He continued moving the ultrasound device around until a tiny, fluttering pounding sound surrounded us. It was beautiful. Even though I'd come to terms with the irrevocably altered future before me, hearing that sound somehow solidified it. It has a heartbeat. My voice was barely audible. It does. Carlisle smiled down at me, a strong one. I beamed back up into his bright golden eyes. I couldn't at all imagine what the baby was going to look like, but I hoped it had Carlisle's eyes. They were so much more interesting than my dull brown ones. He Wiped the blue goo from my stomach, which was already showing a tiny bulge, and bent down to kiss it. What the hell is going on here? Edward was standing in the doorway to Carlisle's study. I groaned audibly. There was enough going on, enough to stress about without worrying about Edward too. He was looking at all of us, no doubt reading the minds of the three vampires, and appeared almost frozen in shock. Please go, Edward. I shook my head. I can't deal with you two right now. Predictably, he ignored me. How could you do this to her? Carlisle moved to stand protectively in front of me. It obviously wasn't intentional. Then get that thing, that monster, out of her. Carlisle, Esme, and even Alice all growled at him. It's not a monster. I tried to keep my tone calm. It's a baby. A what? Rosalie and Emmett, who had been out hunting all morning, appeared behind Edward. My relationship with Rosalie had improved so much in the last few weeks, but I remembered the terrible story she'd told me of her human life. Would this turn her against me? A baby? Carlisle placed his hand over my stomach. Bella and I, impossible as it may seem, are having a baby. No, you can't be serious. Edward's had that manic look in his eyes. This cannot be happening, it's insane. Get it out of her. Edward, shut up. Rosalie's voice was terse. This is a miracle. He opened his mouth to snap back at her. But Emmett cut him off. Seriously bro, cool it. Edward shook his head and disappeared. Rosalie looked at me with adoration. She took a few steps toward me, holding out her hand as she approached. May I? I nodded. Carlisle moved his hand to the side, giving Rosalie room to feel. Do you know if it's a sharp kick made her gasp? Oh. It knows it's Auntie Rose. Emmett joined her in cooing at my stomach. I'm sure he'll be a little slugger. Emmett slapped Carlisle's back. Alice clicked her tongue, or she will be. Oh Bella, we can go shopping at all of those adorable baby stores. I've always wanted a reason to go. Alice, I whined, we don't even know what it will be. We shouldn't go crazy with everything if we don't even know. We'll go gender neutral for now, she cut me off. We can do gray, green, and baby blues. Oh, this is so exciting. She and Rosalie went on and on about plans for a nursery and shopping trips while Esme made me drink a protein shake. I wasn't keeping down any solid food. Carlisle had sent Emmett and Jasper out to procure some equipment not available at our small town hospital. I was leaning against his side. On the couches he went through page after page on his laptop looking for any myth, folktale, or legend that might be similar to our current situation. He was scrolling too fast for my eyes to keep up. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Charlie. Should we have dinner at the diner tomorrow? I groaned. I knew I had to tell Charlie what was going on, but I'd hoped to have more time to wrap my own head around it first. With the way I was already growing though, there's no way I could keep it from him for long, especially with even the thought of diner food making me nauseous. What is it, love? Carlisle kissed the top of my head. How do I explain this to Charlie? I mean, he's just barely getting used to the idea of me becoming one of you, that you even exist at all, and this completely derails every plan I had before. He traced little circles over my stomach. I think we should talk to him together. Why don't you invite him to have dinner here tomorrow? I nodded, a little strained. I was suddenly feeling exhausted and typed out my response. Actually, why don't we do dinner at the Cullens? Esme has been dying to have an excuse to use her pasta maker. At least, if Charlie reacted horribly to the news, we would have Alice and Esme to run interference. No matter what he thought about the Cullens as a whole, he absolutely adored them. He would probably have a better rein on his temper with them here. Okay Bells, sounds good. What time? 7. That works. I was struggling to keep my eyes open when I read his last response. I tossed my phone onto the coffee table, and turned so my face was against Carlisle's chest. His smell was so calming. I placed a hand over the one he had on my stomach and felt a soft kick. I think he knows it's you. I didn't look up, but I could picture clearly the way his brow would be arched. Yes, I could be wrong, but it feels like a boy. He laughed softly. You think so? I've had the opposite feeling, actually. When I try to picture it, I see a girl. I laughed along with him for a moment, then lost myself to a dreamless sleep. So that's for today. I have added some of products in the comment section, do check out them too. Thanks for watching and don't forget to drop your reviews in comment section.